Doug, I'm starting in about 20 seconds. If you have your tie on, if you would join us.
And Commissioner Lanier will be on in just a moment.
Checking my tie.
Lawson, as always. Okay. Good evening. I would like to call to order the Riviera Beach Community Development Agency regular meeting of July 22nd. The time is 6 o'clock. Madam Clerk, will you call the roll?
Commissioner Lanier? Commissioner McCoy? Commissioner Miller-Anderson?
Present.
Vice Chair Lawson?
Present.
Chair Botel?
Present. Thank you.
Also present, I thought I saw the mayor on here earlier. Mayor Felder, Scott Evans, Interim Executive Director, Michael Haygood, General Counsel, and Tamara Thagan, CRA Clerk.
Thank you. We'll have a moment of silence followed by the Pledge of Allegiance led by Commissioner Lawson.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Any member of the public wishing to comment publicly on any matter, including items on the agenda, shall submit their comments by email to RBCRA Clerk Tamara Thagan at publiccomments@rbcra.com. The email shall contain the applicable agenda item numbers along with the precise wording to be read. Explicit language will not be read. Emails without applicable agenda item numbers will be read under the general public comment section. Be advised, public. Shirley, excuse me. We've just started, Shirley. Oh. Okay. Tamara, would you please send to Commissioner Lanier's personal email address the link to get in? She'll do it right now, Shirley. Thanks. Under public comments will be accepted for each applicable item and the general public comment section until closure is announced by the chairperson or the RBCRA clerk. All email addresses and submitted comments are and will be public record. The RBCRA clerk or designee will read public comments into the record at the appropriate time for no more than 3 minutes. If you have any questions, please contact the Riviera Beach CRA office at 561-844-3408 or email tseguin@rbcra.com. Agenda approval. Do we have any additions, deletions, or substitutions from either?
No, Madam Chair. I will just point out that we have adjusted the agenda per the direction at the last meeting to more closely resemble the way the city organizes their agenda.
Thank you. We appreciate that. Are there any, from the Executive Director or the Board of Commissioners, any additions, deletions, substitutions? I see none. Do we have any disclosures by commission or staff? I see none. Would someone care to make a motion and a second to adopt the agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Thank
Madam-
you.
Did we recognize Mr. McCoy being on?
Did not see Mr. McCoy. Oh, there he is. Yes, let the record show that Mr. McCoy has joined us. Thank you. Are there any public comment cards?
And I just need to take roll call for the motion and second on the adoption of the agenda.
I got this.
Commissioner Miller-Anderson?
Yes.
Commissioner McCoy?
Yes.
Vice Chair Lawson?
Yes.
Chair Botel?
Yes.
That motion carries with Commissioner Lanier absent.
Thank you. Are there any public comment cards in the consent agenda?
Shirley?
There are no public comment cards.
Okay. All matters listed under this item are considered to be routine and action will be taken by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a council commissioner so requests, in which event the item will be removed from the general order of business and considered in its normal sequence on the agenda. Would anyone like to have anything pulled from the consent agenda?
Yes, this is Shirley Lanier. I still couldn't get in. I had to come on my phone, but I'd like to get some more information about this consent agenda item.
Which item is that?
The one that has,
Utility easement agreement?
yes, that's the one.
The old 13. Okay. So we'll pull that and make it item number 3 still on the regular agenda.
I still haven't gotten the link to be able to get in.
Tamara, could you put that to?
I sent it, and Shirley Desir also sent it.
I'm not seeing it.
Or we'll, if you don't mind, Shirley, we'll go ahead and you keep trying and let us know.
Yeah, I'll stay on my phone until I can get in.
Okay, Ms. Miller Anderson, you have I saw your hand, I think. Okay. The consent agenda, the only items then on the consent agenda would be the request for approval of vendor invoices and the approval of regular board meeting.
Oh, and the easement agreement. It's listed as a resolution because it is a resolution, but that is on the consent.
But Commissioner Lanier asked that it be pulled off. Ms. Miller Anderson?
Mr. Lawson has had his hand up for a while.
Must be.
Do you have your screen where you're only looking at active cameras? That way you can just put it on active cameras.
Thank you. That's better. Yeah. Mr.
Thank you,
Lawson.
Madam. Thank you, Madam Chair. If I could pull off the invoices from the consent, please.
Okay.
Item number 1.
The only thing left now on the consent agenda is the approval of regular board meeting minutes. Would someone care to make a motion and second to adopt the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Madam Clerk? Your microphone is off.
Thank you. Commissioner Miller Anderson,
Yes.
Commissioner Lanier,
Yes.
Commissioner McCoy,
Yes.
Vice Chair Lawson,
Yes.
Chair Botel.
Yes.
That motion carries, removing the vendor invoices and item number 3 from the consent agenda.
Thank you. So we'll go right to the invoices. Mr. Lawson, what were your questions?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Evans, can you give us an update on what the Florida Fishing Academy has been doing for during this COVID crisis in regards to the academy with the kids? Have they transitioned it to virtual, or are we just paying invoices because it's a contract?
We have a contract. I would have to ask Anita Jenkins. She helps manage that contract to fill in what the status of what the work they've been doing under this COVID.
And Ms. Miller Anderson has a question. Does that have to come before Ms. Jenkins and Miller Anderson?
Yeah, we need to say the item for the record, what the number is, and then Ms. Tamara needs to read it. And then Mr. Lawson can go. It hasn't been read into the record, the number 1, what the item is.
Request for the approval of vendor invoices,
Item number 1.
item number 1.
Thank you.
Is Ms. Jenkins here?
Yes.
Good evening, Commissioners. Anita Jenkins, Director of Neighborhood Services. Yes, Commissioner Lawson, the program, to the extent that they can, have been conducting virtual classes and partnering with some of the summer camp programs and other virtual learning opportunities.
Thank you, Ms. Jenkins. Which summer camp programs? Because the majority of the camp programs have been closed. The only one that I'm aware of is JFK.
They've had, well, there are kids in the city, and some of the kids who attend the Boys and Girls Club, they partner with them. And also with, there are 9 kids who've been part of the Creativity Station program that we started last year, attending virtual camp, and they've had 3, maybe 4 sessions to the extent that they can. And we understand that they've not been able to conduct their regular program.
And do we know if the amount of kids that are participating in these virtual camps with the academy?
I would have to get back with you on an exact number. I know that in the creativity station, there are 9 kids from Riviera Beach. And there have been others with Boys and Girls Club, but I can't give you a number tonight. I can get that back to you.
Okay. Because honestly, I would really like to pause this academy and see what we could have discussions with the fishing academy to see if we can get back into some type of normalcy with these kids and really maximize on the camp, possibly renegotiating the contract, extending it, adding a couple months to the back end of the term of the contract, because right now it's not being effective for these kids. So, you know, right now us taking care of and supporting 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 kids is not sufficient to be paying $2,500 a month, or I'm sorry, what is that?
Yes,
Yeah,
that's the right
$2,500 a
number.
month. Yeah, $2,500 a month. So I would just have a discussion to see how many kids are participating in the camp, and to see, just letting them know that during this COVID crisis, if we could possibly extend this contract for a 14 or 15 months, to seeing what options they have to delay having to pay these invoices out right now.
We can do that, and I'll bring back a report to you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Jenkins. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Now, Ms. Jenkins, it looks like they've conducted 27 video lessons, and it would be good to know how many children signed on to those or have witnessed those video lessons, and how many kids in Troop 777. It looks like they haven't been meeting in person, but they have been doing recruitment for that troop and so on. So that would be good. All right, thank you. Again, item number 3.
Madam Chair,
Yes, who's speaking?
thank you. I think you need to approve item number 1 before you go on to number 3.
Sorry, thank you. Clerk?
Commissioner Miller Anderson?
Is that a motion?
I don't think we have a motion.
I have a
Oh,
motion.
we have to do a motion. Okay.
I don't know what we're voting on here. What is it about?
We're voting to pay the invoices.
So I thought we were not going to pay them.
Okay,
Mr.
am I
McCoy?
being heard or seen?
Yeah, you are now. Thank you.
Okay, I was trying to get your attention. So I'm looking at, on the same note, I was looking at Mr. Haygood's invoices, and I'm glad we have him here so we can ask him some questions.
You're breaking up a little bit, Mr. McCoy. Can you?
We have 2 invoices covered 2 different periods. I want to know first why are we covering 2 different months, and
Those months hadn't been billed, Commissioner.
hello,
Can you hear me?
can you hear me okay?
Mr. Haygood is trying to respond.
Okay,
I think I understand.
I can hear you. Well, one of the months,
We can't hear you now, Mr. McCoy.
Mr. McCoy, they were for 2 months. And one of the months
can we
was
defer this and I can come back in, please?
Yeah, you don't have to go. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay,
everybody went off.
Ms. Lanier is,
I hear
I can
you.
hear you.
yeah, it's something wrong with the system tonight. I don't know what it is. I still haven't gotten my link, and I know if they probably sent it, but it's still not coming up on my computer. So I don't know what the deal is. I can't get into my I don't know what the deal is with this. So I'm just gonna stay on the phone until I can get in. But I'm not gonna be meaning to cut in, but you can't see my face or see my hand raised, so I'm not butting in. I'm just want to ask a question if it comes up.
Just shout out.
Should we go on to the third item on the
Okay.
consent agenda until Mr. McCoy can return?
Let's do that.
Okay.
I think
The
we've
third
lost our
item
clerk now.
is approval of a,
No, there is no third item because we haven't voted on the first one. The first item was supposed to be about the fishing academy. We haven't made any closure on that at all.
The Fishing Academy was about the invoices, and that we're waiting for Mr. McCoy to come back because I'm sure he wants to weigh in on that, and he had other questions about Mr. Haygood's invoice. So we're going to just skip for a second over to number 3 and then go back to number 1.
Okay. Okay, that's all.
Yeah. So Madam Clerk, number 3.
Item number 3, a resolution of the Board of Commissioners of the Riviera Beach Community Redevelopment Agency authorizing the execution of a utility easement agreement to the city of Riviera Beach for property located between 12th and 13th Streets as is more specifically described in the agreement, directing and authorizing the chairman and executive director to take such actions as shall be necessary and consistent to carry out the intent and desire of the agency, providing an effective date.
So move.
Second.
Thank you. Now, I think it was Ms. Lanier that had questions about this. Ms. Lanier?
Yes, I wanted for him to explain this to me. I read it, but I wasn't real clear about what it means. So you can explain it to me what this means and what it means in the context of the marina project.
okay, so this item is, once this is approved, we would then record it with Palm Beach County. And the reason that we're bringing before you is so that the board can officially approve it before we have it recorded. And the reason we have to do this utility easement is because when the city council approved the abandonment of Old 13th Street, as a part of that ordinance, they required that we approve a utility easement that's the exact same size as the roadway that's being abandoned. And this recognizes that there's water and sewer lines underneath that roadway. So that if the city in the future, when we redevelop this property, then we will have to move that easement. And it just puts in the records that there are utilities underneath that roadway and protects them.
So this is something that we've already done in a sense.
Yes, when the city council abandoned the roadway, as a required for that, yes.
Okay, okay. Okay, all right, I'm clear now.
Thank you. Any other questions? Madam Clerk?
Commissioner Miller Anderson,
Yes.
Commissioner Lanier,
Yes.
Commissioner McCoy,
Yes.
Commissioner Vice Chair Lawson,
Yes.
Chair Botel.
Yes.
That motion carries.
Thank you. We have no unfinished business, but we have a presentation. Madam Clerk?
Do we want to go back to item 1?
Oh, is Mr. McCoy back? Yes, I think I heard his voice. I don't see him, but good. Okay.
Madam Chairman, I suggest that you take each of those invoices separately and go ahead if you want to approve the one for the initial one we discussed and then to the other ones that have some questions.
Okay. Mr. Lawson, do you want us to hold off on the Florida Fishing Academy until you get the information you want, or are you satisfied that we will be getting that information? Let me know how you think you want us to proceed.
No, we're currently under contract with the Florida Fishing Academy. I want us to be proactive with paying their invoice, but seeing if we can move forward, because right now with schools not determining if they're going to be in session or doing virtual, I want us to kind of delay this academy, work out something. So I want to go ahead and make sure they're paid for this time.
Okay, great. So, Mr. McCoy, it was just your question then about Mr. Haygood's invoice?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yes. Can you hear me okay now?
Yeah, yes.
Okay, so Mr. Haygood, the utility easement agreement that we just approved, this invoice indicates that this was done April 30th, 2020. Is there any other invoices that we can expect that has any indication of you drafting the utility easement agreement?
I don't recall What happened with utility easements, there's another party involved, so typically I would draft it and then forward it to the other party, which was Zero Properties, and they would give comments, but the majority of the work would have been done initially. So if I did it initially in April, I'd do initially most of the cost.
Okay, Mr. Evans, and I'm looking at Mr. Haygood's invoices. It seems that I don't know. I see something on here that says, I guess drafting of resolutions. Is that true for all of the resolutions at the city that they are drafted by Mr. Haygood and the CRA? Excuse me.
It depends on the item. So if it's an item that is similar to an item before, then we start from the original resolution. But for any new item, Mr. Haygood drafts those resolutions. Yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Anything else from anyone else, or can we move to call the question, including everything? Okay, Madam Clerk.
Commissioner Miller Anderson,
This is for item number 1, right? 1?
Yeah, the invoices.
for the
Yes.
invoices. Commissioner Lanier,
Yes.
Commissioner McCoy,
Yes.
Vice Chair Lawson,
Yes.
Chair Botel.
Yes,
That motion carries.
thank you. Okay, we have the presentations. Now we can move on to presentations. We have no unfinished business. Madam Clerk?
Item number 4, update on RBCRA Executive Director search presented by HR Gov.
Hi, are you ready for us?
Yes.
Well, thank you. It's nice to be with you here tonight. Again, I'm Heidi Voorhees, President and co-owner of GovHR, and joining me tonight is Jim Deneen, who is the Vice President with our company, and whom I think most of, if not all of you, have spoken with. We'll just take a minute, and Jim can recap some of the meetings that he's had that led to us developing the documents that we've sent to you. You're muted, Jim.
You're muted.
Hi, everybody. I hope I'm not muted now.
You're good.
I really enjoyed talking I got a chance to talk to all the commissioners. It was very helpful. Thank you for taking out the time. Also, based on some comments that a number of you made, I talked to Dr. I hope I say this right, Wibby. I also talked to Miss Jenkins. I talked to Mr. Haygood and Mr. Evans.
Okay. Let me stop. Hold on. You talking to who? Who'd you talk to, Dr. Wibby?
Yes. Okay. I also talked. Pardon me.
And whose direction and why?
No, this is all just. I asked people, was there any idea to just get ideas about the community in general? Okay, and so it's pretty normal. People will
suggest. But who suggested Dr. Wibby? Because clearly this is a CRA Executive Director search. At whose direction did you speak to Dr. Wimby, Mr. Deneen?
I forget which commissioner specifically. There was a number of people suggested, and I forget specifically what commissioners suggested. Also, Ms. Jenkins. I talked, like I said, Mr. Haygood. This was to get information on the community, and all of the information was good information. Got a lot of what became very obvious was there was a profile of the kind of candidate you want that's very consistent. Also, it allowed me to understand the community.
Mr. Deneen, Dr. Wimby hasn't even been here a year, and she doesn't even work for the CRA. So I don't know what exactly or who directed you to speak to her, but Mr. Evans, Mr. Scott Evans, I mean, specifically we asked for this to have independence from the city of Riviera Beach. I don't understand why we even had to go to mention Dr. Wimby, because she shouldn't have anything to do with that. And I thought we were very clear when we chose to go this route with GovUSA. Can you explain that, Mr. Scott Evans?
I have had absolutely nothing to do with the process. I've specifically stayed out of it. Mr. Haygood and the city's HR department have been managing it. And I know that they've been the HR firm's just been trying to gather information on the community.
Yeah,
We have not had any
Okay,
contact.
all right, that's all I have.
Thank you. Go ahead, Mr. Deneen.
well, mine was just to gather information basically on the community and to understand really what was going on in terms of economic development. The bottom line was, which was really good, I enjoyed all the conversations. And what really became obvious, which is a good thing, is that there was a consistent profile of the kind of person that you want, the kind of mature person that I think you're looking for, which I do think is out there. But it was very helpful to understand what people's expectation, and the real focus is on the city, is on the commissioners for the CRA. They were the ones that gave me direction on what they were really looking for. Anything outside of that was to just give me a better feel for the community.
And I think that all led to the documents that were sent to you, the position announcement and the recruitment brochure, which if there's anything in error in those, we would, appreciate knowing that. Otherwise, we are going to move forward and put the position announcement out onto professional websites, onto social media, and start marketing this opportunity. We do have the list of places where this was advertised the last time. The only departure that I would recommend, unless the commission feels strongly, is I don't see any reason to advertise in the newspapers.
Yeah.
Unless the commission does. It's very expensive. And I don't think we haven't used newspaper advertising in probably 10 years because we just don't get the return on the candidates that, we get from using professional websites, social media websites and other places like we're going to also put it on the National Planning Association, the National Forum for Black Public Administrators, the Florida Redevelopment Association, the Southern Economic Development Council. Those are some places that we think are going to yield quality candidates. And we'd like to start doing that tomorrow. And then we have a deadline toward the end of August for candidates to send us their resumes.
Mr. Lawson, are you trying to raise your hand or? Yes, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Deneen, Ms. Voorhees, thank you guys so much for the work you put in so far. I had a great conversation with Mr. Deneen in regards to what we were looking for and what we expected. And I see some of the feedback and some of the information that you actually did take from what our conversation pertains to. So I appreciate that. What factors did you guys use to determine the salary?
The salary that we used was simply what we got from Mr. Haygood that was in the previous job description. I'm not sure if it's high enough, but the way we worded it was 110 to 125 plus or minus, so you can go up depending on qualifications. Right. That gives you some flexibility, but if there's other information that we need regarding salary, we're open to that.
Right. Okay. Mr. Evans or Mr. Haygood, what have been our previous directors' salaries over the last 5 to 10 years?
Well, it was substantially higher than what is published or what the CRA has adopted in its HR for that position. I think Mr. Brown was north of 160, 170, and I think
Mr. Brown was closer to 180 actually.
Okay, maybe so. And I think is the prior
Floyd Johnson, I was about 180 in the 180s too, also.
Okay.
I mentioned to Mrs. Voorhees and Mr. Deneen that we may need to do at some point a salary survey. We did a rough salary survey, if you'll recall, when we were retaining them, and looked at some of the other local cities, but it was certainly not extensive covering the rest of the state. It was only for Palm Beach County. So maybe in the meantime, before we start interviewing, you may want to, we discussed this, increase the, do a salary survey.
So, Mr. Haygood, you said you looked at Palm Beach County and that was the last survey that was completed?
Well, that was a survey that we did. I'd say it wasn't a formal survey. We just wrote, I think it was Boynton Beach, Delray, and West Palm Beach.
And I know that all those directors' positions are substantially higher than this average of 110 to 125.
Well, the one I recall the highest was 150.
Well, yeah, I know that that is, I believe, what, Delray Beach?
And I thought it was.
It's either Delray or Boynton, because I know that West Palm is actually higher than that 150 as well. So my concern, and here's the concern, I guess, that I have. If we're trying to look for the best and the brightest, this salary is going to be inferior to anything that anybody's going to be interested in looking at as of right now to come to our city. Based upon the directors that I know that are out there that we're trying to attract, that salary I have a major concern with putting this out. And then the other thing was the brochure that was sent out. I wasn't a big fan, honestly, Ms. Voorhees, of the brochure, because I've seen some other advertisements for director and executive director positions, and it just doesn't stand out. It doesn't really pop for me and make me want to actually, apply for this position. So those were some of the concerns and feedback that I had. Everything else was strong, but it's the salary and then the brochure. If we could just kind of get some more graphics, make it a little bit more marketable.
Oh, absolutely. This is just text. This is not, we have pictures that Shirley has sent us, and we'll have links in there, and it'll be terrific when it's laid out. All we needed for you all to see was the actual text.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, and I have some sample ones as well. I'm sure you're professionals here, so I don't need to send those to you.
No, it'll look great. I promise you.
Excellent. In addition to that,
well, can we do is it okay then? Because we were just following the materials from the agency, but should we have a broad salary range that gives you latitude? Like 150 to 180 plus or minus?
Ms. Miller Anderson wants to weigh in, Mr. Lawson, if you don't mind.
Thank you.
Thank you. Now I know Mr. Brown did not come in making 180. I don't quite remember what he had when he came in, but he didn't come in. I think he left. That was his last contract with the 180. And also, I think we want to keep in mind the number of staff that's over there. We only have 14, 15 people. I do agree we need to be able to attract people that are going to be able to get this job done, but I think we need to think as well as to how many people we have. The plus or minus, I can live with that, because if we do have someone that has extensive experience that goes beyond what it says in the job advertisement, then that would provide us an opportunity to go up or down. But I don't basing it off of what Mr. Brown left with would be probably appropriate for us to start off with that. But that could be something that we could work towards based on the person's experiences.
Madam Chair, just a quick question from Ms. Miller Anderson.
Yes,
did you state what Mr. Brown did come in at? I didn't hear that. What do you recall?
I don't recall that, no. But his 180 was that last contract.
Was it when he left? Okay, I would actually be in agreement with that 150 price. My mindset was saying for a good director, we'd be anywhere between that 140 and 160 range to attract a good director comparable to what Palm Beach County is doing. And actually throughout Florida right now, that's a decent salary for directors.
Thank you. So are we asking that we do, I hear what you're saying, that 150, and I agree, but are we also asking for Ms. Voorhees to do an analysis of surrounding or comparable cities to see what their CRA directors are getting? I think we would like to have current information about what comparable cities are paying their CRA directors. If that's an easy enough thing for you to do, I think that would be good information for us to have.
Is it all right if we did something like 150 plus or minus in the announcement so that we can get it out? And then we can do the survey so that you have it when.
Yeah, we okay with that? Sounds like I see heads going.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Thank you.
Good idea.
Great, we'll do that.
Ms. Miller Anderson.
So they're gonna come back to us with this, with the final piece or what?
Sounds to me like what, Ms. Voorhees, go ahead, you can answer.
Yeah, no, this is the final, this is
Yeah.
the language. And what we will do with the push announcement is send it out over websites. And what we'll do with the recruitment brochure is add the pictures and lay it out so that it's very attractive. And we can send that back to you for your information, but we don't want to lose any more time because all you've approved.
And the second bullet where it says candidates must have the bachelor's degree, that last sentence, it says the master's degree and or professional certifications are highly desired, but then in the other one, it says preferred. So I'm thinking,
We'll make that language consistent.
Yeah, I like preferred.
Okay.
I don't know how much you feel about that, but it does say preferred on the second one, but this one says highly desired.
Right.
Everybody okay with preferred?
Yep.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, one more thing.
Yes,
Because the announcement's going out, I had some sample brochures that I pulled. If I could just kind of share those with some of the ones that I've actually researched from around the different municipalities, just that I actually was intriguing to me and would make me have an interest in applying for the position. If I could share those with you guys as well. Ms. Shirley, if you could share that, do your screen share, please. So this was the executive director for sewage and water up in New Orleans. The next one, Ms. Shirley, or scroll through, I'm sorry, go ahead. So of course, I'm sure staff has already sent the pictures, you know, just to make it attractive.
Yeah.
You guys know the
Right.
thing, but this really stood out for me because it
Yeah,
showcased
this is exactly what yours will look like.
perfect.
Yeah, it'll
And then
be
there
a
was
long.
one, and then there was one Del Rey that I really liked as well. Shirley, if you can share that one as well.
Yep.
It really showcased the city. That was a budget manager. And just kind of showcasing our CRA, because we have a beautiful city. So it's just really showcasing it and putting those pictures along with it and then getting that advertisement out to us, because this is our final stand in selecting a great position. What's our last position we're hiring in the city? Because there's only 3 people that report to us, 4 actually. So this is gonna be our last hire to kind of completing the piece that this council is supposed to put in charge and letting our staff do their part. So we want to make sure it really stands out and it really hits home.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. We've done work for Denton, Texas as well. So we did their
excellent.
fire chief. Yeah.
Excellent. Okay, perfect. Well, thank you, Ms. Voorhees. Thank you, Mr. Deneen.
Yeah, and thank you. We really appreciate your help and your observations. It was very helpful to us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I want to thank the commissioners for taking the time to speak to me. I really enjoyed it. And it was really an eye opener in terms of understanding what everybody wants to do.
Good. Thank you so much.
Have a good
Okay,
meeting.
thank you very much. Have a good evening. Thanks.
Thank you.
Madam Clerk, item number 5.
Item number 5, economic development incentives presentation.
Chair and members of the board, Jeff Costello has been working on some economic incentives for us, and we've met with some of the commissioners on these items. He's also helping us with the Treasure Coast Regional Planning Council CRA update. So he's very familiar with our plans in our area, and he's been working on bringing forward a couple of different incentives. And in order to implement these incentives, of course, we're going to have to write detailed policies, procedures, and guidelines. So tonight, Jeff's going to present the various programs that we've been looking at, hoping to get a board consensus to bring back to you in the future the policies and guidelines to implement the potential programs. And Jeff, with that, I'll let Jeff.
All right, thank you, Scott. Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. We're gonna have a brief, well, relatively brief presentation. Some of this you've seen previously, and so we'll get right to it. It's been a few months since I presented to you, and right now, as we analyze the potential incentive program and recognizing what you already have in place with regard to the product improvement incentive program, beautification incentive program. And once again, as far as the statutes, Section 163, 345 encourages private enterprise for the rehabilitation or redevelopment of those community redevelopment areas. Also, your community redevelopment plan includes 17 potential programs, and one of direct financial incentives to generate new private development. I showed this slide previously, but it's just a reaffirmation as far as the purpose of the incentives, as ensuring the economic vitality of the CRA district through increasing jobs and enhancing the commercial tax base, and catalyze investment, help overcome barriers to new construction, encourage infill of large vacant tracts of land that give the downtown the appearance of light, security, and abandonment. And also generating a daytime business population, making feasible development of mixed use and residential development, and helping reach known as a place to conduct business. And this is really ties in really well as you reimagine Riviera Beach, based on the workshop you had this past weekend. So as far as the focus incentive programs, look at public infrastructure, job creation, business relocation, the targeted locations are based throughout the CRA district, which focus on the major corridors such as Heron and Broadway. Targeted projects, basically it's a large variety. The intent is to incentivize, get the new development moving forward in the district. As we previously explained, that the TIF, the tax increment financing, allows local governments to invest in infrastructure, improvements of programs, and pay for them by capturing the increase in those values generated by development, basically reinvesting those funds to the district and promoting the private sector activity. There's a large variety of programs that are available. And in this case, we looked at, the reimbursement of increment revenue for infrastructure, which is one of them that we'll go through quickly in a few minutes or a few seconds. The tax rebate, CRA's equity contribution on a developed projected tax increment revenue, and also investment through the land value, a long-term lease or land lease. From the CRA's perspective, it's basically the timing of the assistance, the level of the assistance, and the net benefit to the CRA, the city, and the local economy. This slide, I do apologize, is very hard to read. We could email this to you separately. But this is basically, we looked at 12 incentive programs throughout the state. There are more, and they have different names. Are consistent in their intent, but we took a look at all these, and then just so you recognize that this is nothing new. This has occurred throughout the state, and encourage the revitalization of redevelopment areas. So our first one that we'll go through briefly is the Infrastructure Investment Program, basically facilitating development in the CRA district, assisting property owners to improve their property or construct new build, improve overall physical appearance of the CRA district, attracting jobs, increasing property values and marketability of properties, and creating improved infrastructure on both public and private land. Now, as we looked at this, we realized that the first developers in the door really are taking the highest risk. So looking at a very similar scenario in West Palm, where the reimbursement of the increment of the infrastructure incentive of the TIF would be over a 10-year period, and really for the first 2 years, allowing a higher percentage in the reimbursement of the TIF. Again, they're taking a greater risk, and then after the 2 years, years 3 through 5, he get out of 50%. and that percentage, for direction for you. That's in looking at this, thought that was reasonable. And these improvements would be, like I said, public land, private, public right or on both. And those eligible costs are basically public improvements, which in general, the CRA investing in those anyway. But in any case, it's more incentivizing that, whether it be through the right of way or on street, assisting on lots or parking structures, public plazas, and so forth. That's how those would be struck. Those would be the eligible cost. And it does require a local employment program. Basically, they would need to provide a program in identifying how they would do with opportunities for both construction phase and then for the initial employment phase project. Again, depending on the end result, that will have that plan may vary. Just as an example, I was involved in a project where we provided an incentive for public infrastructure, and we had it was for a hotel. So we were able to deal with the initial phase of the jobs as part of which we also did the construction also. But my point is that depending on what the end user is, and then be up to that applicant to prove to the board that they're fulfilling that requirement. This next slide is just an example, basically a calculation of how that increment on the CRA incentive at 50% would look like. But it's just wanted to go through it so you had an idea. And this would be, again, it's a return over a 10-year period. That period could be short, but that's what we propose at this point. The next program is a job creation bonus program. And basically that overall goal is to attract and expand, providing higher paying jobs to the CRA district, providing for job diversification while promoting local hiring. And so with this particular program, the high paying job definition basically is at the county average annual wage, 115% of that, and then 105% also. So the type of services that could be eligible for this, whether it be marine industry, industrial, office, those are the types that we are identifying at this point. We steered away through the retail, restaurant, and bars and entertainment venues. The intent again is to attract more permanent, higher paying jobs that goes to support and reinvest within the district. This is sort of a breakdown for a business where if you're relocating in the startups for 10 jobs, and then also 5 for expansion. So if a business is coming into the district, it would be a number higher, 10 jobs, where if it's an existing business and they're expanding, then it would be 5. The maximum award would be $50,000. So I just want to explain too, on this particular one, when we were initially reaching out, we were looking at a different formula, and then researching that further, felt this is probably more appropriate and to encourage that, the more the local hiring, and also you're looking at the maximum incentive award or grant award is $50,000. In mind, back to the previous incentive, you do not pay they do not get reimbursed on that until the project's totally complete and it's on the tax rolls for the first year. So in this particular case, you would need to budget if you're for this program, potentially on an annual basis. So the maximum award in this particular case would be $50,000, and hiring requirement would be with a home address within the city limits of 33404. And then the last one that we were looking at is the Relocation and Development Assistance Program, assisting property owners who need to attract an important tenant building, help attract companies that are receiving potentially state and county incentives in the Riviera Beach. And this would pay for 20% of the company's eligible relocation costs up to $50,000. In this particular case, too, it would be creating a minimum of 25 qualifying jobs, and those the definition is provided on the screen. And the third targeted industry. This is pretty much consistent with what you see in these programs that you see with the BDB, Palm Beach County BDB, and then the state programs. This is basically you're additionally leveraging to attract these businesses. It's a one-time contribution that would be paid out within 90 days after the business is located or moved to the CRA district, and the qualifying jobs are in place. So that's critical. So that basically concludes my presentation. And I really want to thank you all for the opportunity to present this evening, working with the CRA team in looking at these programs. Keep in mind that as these get established, it can always be adjusted. But and as you're reimagining Riviera Beach and the opportunities are where we're coming out of a very critical and competitive in the market, and to incentivize and redevelop the district. So that concludes my presentation, and I'm available for any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Could you?
Oh, one more thing, excuse me. So the intent, as I said, come back with program guidelines. We can bring those back to you depending on your agendas in August, whatever meeting is preferred, and I'd work with with Scott and his team in getting it to move forward on the agenda.
Thank you. Could you, take the screen down? It's hard for me to see.
Sorry.
It's okay.
Let me get off of that. My apologies.
Oops.
Where's my? Come on.
Doesn't need to hit the button and say stop sharing the screen or something.
Yeah.
That's what I'm looking for. It's not.
Should be at the bottom maybe of your screen.
There you go.
There
Thank
we
you.
go.
Okay.
It's up in the corner. Sorry.
Thank you, Jeff. Any questions for Jeff?
Yeah, I have a question.
Who's speaking? Ms. Lanier.
Yes, I have a question in terms of the industries that you're looking at for the CRA area. You definitely need to add the healthcare industry. There are a diverse amount of employees that work in that area. There are a lot of business owners in that area, and you definitely need to add healthcare as a part of the industry.
Okay.
Second, I think that when you're saying about the TIF of 50 to 70%, I think that's a bit high. And if you're going to use that figure, it needs to be tied to projects that are at least 55 million. Because if you were bringing in something that high for an area of this size, you're going to have to reward projects that have a high value in terms of providing jobs, in terms of a bigger project, because that 50 to 70% for that TIF is just not workable for anything less than 15, 25 million.
Okay, on the let me make a suggestion, and in researching the programs, we cap it if that's the desire. If another idea is that you keep it at the 50%, but then you could cap it. For instance, it could be at 500,000 for that 10-year period. So whenever you're spreading that out, you're looking at 50,000 a year. And as far as other programs where some of them are at a minimum investment is $2 million. I think that was Beach. I think in Beach it was $5 million of a new project. But again, as this goes forward, you want to encourage that. We don't know exactly who may come forward. But again, it has to be on the eligible cost, and it's all based upon the TIF generated. If they don't generate a certain amount of TIF, then that reimbursement gets adjusted accordingly. So all that financial analysis would be conducted prior to you making a decision as a board, knowing that those our property values change. We're going to experience something maybe not next year, but next year on those changes. So the CRA will be protected in where that's concerned.
Yeah, and I think that the city needs to work with the CRA on something like this, given that a lot of those industries are in industrial zones, and a lot of them are not in the CRA as well. So I think that it needs to be a project that at least the city is in tune with, because of where these projects or where these industries end up at in these industrial areas. I have a couple of more questions, but I'll yield the floor to someone else for it too.
Thank you. Anyone else? I have another suggestion. In addition to medical, I would think that you would want to include logistics, since that's a primary area of interest for Palm Beach County and the chamber.
Right. Okay.
Thank you. Anything else? Ms. Lanier, did you want to finish up?
No, you can go ahead. I'll put these in writing to the CRA.
Okay. Well, thank you, Jeff. You've done a great job of putting some things together for us to consider, and we appreciate the work you've put into it.
Thank you. Appreciate
there
it.
are no other questions. We don't have anything to vote on here. This was just a presentation, so we can move on to item number 6. Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you.
Have a good evening.
Item number 6, a resolution of the Board of Commissioners of the Riviera Beach Community Redevelopment Agency authorizing the execution of an agreement for sale and purchase with Gerald Properties Incorporated for property located at the City of Riviera Beach Marina, commonly known as the Yachtsman, as is more specifically described in the agreement, at purchase price of $3,817 plus applicable closing costs, directing and authorizing the chairman and executive director to take such actions as shall be necessary and consistent to carry out the intent and desire of the agency, providing an effective date.
Thank you. Would someone like to make a motion and second so we can have a discussion, and then we will take a look at Mr. Evans' presentation. Would someone like to make a motion to accept this question?
So moved.
Thank you. Would anyone like to second that motion? Who moved the motion? I can't see. Was that Mr. Lawson? Thank you.
I did.
Second, number 6. Item number 6, right?
Yes.
Yeah, second.
Thank you. Mr. Evans?
Yes, I'm excited to bring this item before you. This property, and Shirley, if you can go to the next slide, the Yachtsman property is located directly inside the city's marina. And this is a view of the property right there. Shirley, if you go to the next screen. There we go. It's a little bit better view. So the CRA is under contract now to purchase all of the property directly west of the site that you see there in red. The site in red is the Yachtsman property, and the CRA has been trying to purchase this from Viking for at least 15 years. The proposed price, what we did was we had the project appraised, the parcel, and we got two appraisals, one for 3.6 million and one for 3.44 million. And so and then additionally, we asked Viking to provide some of their other properties so that we could use them to build future affordable housing. So Viking agreed to include 6 additional properties in addition to this one, which represents a fair value for our proposed purchase price, which is 3.817 million. This project, because it's right in the middle of the marina, really hampers our ability to develop the marina in the next phase. Because of its strategic location, by acquiring this will really enhance what we can do on our property. So the value that owning this particular property adds to the future development of the marina is significant. Our property becomes much more valuable because we can control enough to really implement a large-sized development. Additionally, we'll be able to use the other 6 lots that Viking has given us to bring new future affordable housing. Hopefully we can utilize our mortgage pipeline, our home buyers, and that's a club that we've been developing. We have over 70 people who are in that program, with many who are pre-qualified. So we would utilize the 6 lots to bring new housing to those properties. The purchase of the Yachtsman, of course, we lease this property. So there's additional savings that will result because we lease this property for $120,000 per year. So by purchasing this property, we'll no longer have to lease it. So the agency will immediately save $120,000. The timing of the financing for this is extremely good. The markets are very low as far as interest rates go. So our current lender, BB&T, has agreed to loan us the money if the board elects to purchase this. And this will significantly improve our ability to develop the marina in the future. And with that, I'll just end the presentation and just answer any board questions.
I have several questions, but I'll start out with this one. In the proposal and in the appraisal, it says the market value of real estate is affected by national and local economic conditions. The real estate, the appraisal was done in February of this year, and we are in a situation where we have come into a pandemic. The markets are fluctuating. It does not look good in the next 6 to 8 months or a year. We have 45 million people who are unemployed. So first of all, I would like to have an appraisal done post-COVID, meaning that, looking at the markets now, because when this was done in February, there was not even any inkling of what was to come. So of course it is going to reflect the markets in February. And I know that the markets have significantly changed since that time. So I was definitely wanted to suggest that first.
Madam Chair.
I think that the market has adjusted. There are some things that have changed, like for example, the real estate market, residential, has actually gone up lately. Which is very unusual, but the market properties have been increasing in value, surprisingly, during this time. And what I'll also say is the acquisition of the property is good for the city at any time. And because we're buying it at the fair value now, it puts this into the city CRA hands for the future, for the foreseeable future. Which means that we'll be able to realize a lot more additional millions of dollars in development when we redevelop the marina. So the opportunity to buy the property will benefit us long-term, regardless of the current market that we're in.
Thank you, Mr. Lawson. Oh, sorry, go ahead, Ms. Lanier.
No, I understand that. We are basically banking land with no indication of what future markets are going to look like, or even at least, an appraisal in the middle of this to know what we have going on here.
So my concern, which is only one of them with this project, is the fact that we have an appraisal that's in February, and we are looking at a very volatile, very up and down market to come. And we have a report on the table in terms of the marina project anyway. So we need to be able to understand all of these pieces and see how this is going to fit going forward. But I'll yield to someone else right now, but I do have some other questions.
Mr. Lawson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yes, Councilwoman Botel, the market has shifted, but in regards to the real estate, it's actually increased substantially over the last 6 months, just because of what the Fed has done with the interest rates and what's happening within the economy. So a new appraisal may actually be detrimental to us to request a new appraisal because the price may actually go up. So I'm completely supportive of this. In addition to the parcel, we also see that there's 6 properties that they're actually allowing for us to develop that the CRA and the CDC that could actually develop and do some affordable and workforce housing for us. And that would put 6 new houses on the tax roll and be able to address some of the housing crisis we have. So I'm very much for this because it actually allows for us to complete the entire property parcels in the marina phase. We now have complete ownership. So regardless of what direction we go with this RFP that's currently on the table, while we can develop it, or if it's not developed, whatever we can do based upon what the council decides on, we actually have full ownership. So if it does go back out for bid, now we don't have to have any additional negotiations with any of the surrounding or neighboring owners. We can just say that we own all the land and we're ready to build now. So that's why I would be in agreement with this and moving forward with this as quickly as we can.
Thank you, Mr. Lawson. Anyone else?
I have a
Go ahead, Ms. Lanier.
I have another piece to this also as well. And looking at the environmental piece to this, there is notations made about the environmental impact, which is barely none. This property is in close proximity to a working waterfront. There has been no environmental study. I think they used the term not known, no known. I don't see any due diligence in terms of the environmental impact for this piece. And what happens is that we buy this piece of property and find out later down the line that there's some significant environmental issues with it, and we have to incur that cost. So I don't think that, going through the whole proposal, looking at all of this, there was no due diligence in terms of the environmental impact.
I would like to address that because you're right. The appraisers aren't aware of any environmental studies. So this piece has actually been developed already. So because we leased the land from Viking, we developed the entire site at the same time as we developed the whole marina, which meant excavating all the existing soil, and then we brought in a whole bunch of new soil. In fact, when we built the marina project, we actually elevated all of the entire property, including this site, by 4 additional feet. So the CRA has already, and the city combined, has already developed this site. So it's already been investigated. We've already done excavation.
I didn't see those reports.
I'm saying when we built the marina, the city.
I see environmental reports recently about the land.
So you're saying you believe there's since we paid as a parking lot that there's new contamination?
I don't know. That's the reason why I want to know. Number one, I can't support this project given the environmental issues that I don't know about. It's $4 million on the table. I understand that we're looking at the appraisers and the property or the project is looking at the highest and best use for this property, which is all good and fine. But when you have these outstanding issues in terms of, in my opinion, market value, fluctuation, we have experts on board, PFM, that are experts in this area that can shed some light on this project anyway. So I want to be able to be very clear about spending $4 million for a property just to bank it, because there is some issues moving forward with the marina project. So because of those issues, we need to be very certain about what we're going to do with this property, how we're going to develop it, and spending $4 million on it in the middle of a pandemic, I can't see.
Mr. Lawson.
Again, Councilwoman Lanier, it's not just a property. I do believe in the backup, it shows the other 6 parcels that they're giving us in the Park Manor area, which is a highly sought after community that allows for us to develop workforce and affordable housing. So it's not just completing and completing the marina phase that we need for development. It's also the additional properties that we can actually develop in Park Manor as well. So I really would be inclined to encourage my colleagues to say, let's go forward with this so that we can move forward with our marina. Because even with the experts from PFM that stated they have concerns, we also know that we need full ownership of our marina, which we do not have. And to really develop this community and to move forward, we got to really stop kicking the can down the road. So I think that we should move forward with actually completing this deal.
Thank you. Ms. Miller Anderson.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Miller Anderson.
Is Ms. Lanier finished?
No.
Oh.
I just wanted to say that the city has numerous parcels and lots that can be developed. The CRA has numerous lots and property that can be developed. These are lots that are even not contiguous to each other. So $200,000 versus $4 million, it's not a whole lot that they're giving us. So I do have some issues, and I urge the council not to move forward until, number one, there's a updated environmental study that's done on it, and that we understand what the market is moving forward in the middle of a pandemic. We're talking about $4 million here.
Madam Chair, if I could respond, please.
Well, it could we let Ms. Miller Anderson speak first because she hasn't spoken yet, and then I'll come back to you. Ms. Miller
He
Anderson.
can go ahead and go since they were kind of going back and forth.
Okay.
And the last thing I wanted to say is that, and I'll let Mr. Vice Chair to respond. The last thing I wanted to say is that, you know, we can sit here and go back and forth about appraisals and about environmental studies, but we're not the experts. And I definitely want to have an expert opinion on both of these areas, market value and an expert opinion on the environmental impact for that particular property.
So to that point, Councilwoman Lanier, I've served in the real estate market and business, in commercial, in my personal business. So I do understand, and I would consider myself an expert in the field when it comes to appraisals. So the value and the assessed value on that property and the appraised value on that property is actually lower than what it would appraise at if we went ahead and did another appraisal now. So with having a license in that field, I would consider that self and ask for that support in regards to understanding it as an expert in the field. Mr. Evans, my question for you, sir, is how long have we been trying to buy this site from the owners?
We've been trying to negotiate with Viking for at least 15 years.
Okay, so Councilwoman Lanier, with us trying to decide on purchasing this site, it's coming to the table and falling off the table on numerous occasions, us trying to negotiate a fair price. I would say that based upon the experience of 15 years of trying to complete our marina, that we cannot put a hurdle in developing our marina and understanding that we're getting it at an appraised value with additional real estate and land in the city. Because yes, the city does own a lot of land. The CRA owns land as well, but we want to try to combine that land and develop it because we are that council that's going to do that. So regardless of how much they've owned prior to us, we are who we're waiting on. So we want to complete that by making these purchases and getting to work with our CDC, who's doing amazing jobs, with our CRA, who's actually moving in the right direction, with actually finally getting this land negotiated, and with an organization that's actually working with the city and CRA to get this done. So that's why I'd be inclined for us not to argue about the logistics of this property and move forward with it, because I've sat down and done the research. I sat down with Mr. Evans, and I went over the appraisal in detail because it is my profession. So I wanted to make sure that we were getting fair value for it, and also took a look at the lots that we were receiving as well, and looked at what the assessed value would be if we developed them and provided them as workforce housing to our residents or to our staff that works for the city. So that's why I would be inclined to actually move forward with it. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Ms. Miller Anderson.
Yeah, and I just kind of wanted to piggyback on that part in regards to how long it's been since, we've been trying to negotiate this with Viking. It's been a very long time. I know he said 15 years, but it's definitely been the whole time that I've been on council. And to now get to this point, because it sits in the middle of our marina and is very critical for any kind of future development that we do in the marina. That has always been the issue, is that they always sat in the middle of something that we were trying to do. And until we were able to get control of that, it was going to always be some sort of issue or determining what our future would look like. So, and then I think the added bonus part with the lots in Park Manor, we have a lot of vacant lots over here. And if we can put some workforce housing, affordable homes on those properties, that's what we really need to do, because there are some areas that just really look horrible, that need to be improved. And so, I'm in full support of it. And I do understand your point, Ms. Lanier, regarding the amount and, being in the middle of this pandemic. But I'm just hoping that, with this, we're still able to maneuver our way through, and maybe we just need to tighten our belt up on some other things that we're doing. But I think this point here, this particular item is very crucial in the future of any type of marina development that we do over there. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. McCoy, did you want to say anything before I make a comment? Mr. McCoy, did you want to say anything?
Yeah, I'm having some audio issues here.
Yeah, you're
but
out
I
of...
wanted to, and I thought I heard, can you hear me?
Yes.
Can you hear me okay?
We
My
can.
question is, Mr. Evans, what was the past? I'm sorry?
You're getting crosstalk from some other source, I think, because I'm hearing something else in your background.
Okay, can you hear me okay now?
Yes.
Okay, my question was, what was there any previous sale prices that was presented regarding this, Mr. Scott Evans?
I think there's been a number of prices discussed over the years. I don't have any specific, but the price that Viking paid for it way back was $4 million. So value has always revolved around that number with previous discussions, usually Viking trying to get some sort of a profit from that property since they paid so much for it previously.
Okay, I wanted to kind of respond to Councilwoman Lanier about the environmental concerns. Obviously, I don't know how much concern it is now. We're currently using the property as a parking lot, and going forward, I mean, it is on tap to be a part of our whole redevelopment for the Marina Phase 2. So I don't even know if that is even an issue, because if that's the case, then we need to revisit the whole entire, I guess, the impetus of the project. But obviously, I would think that the environmental factors are of no consequence, at least because we wouldn't even have a Phase 2 Marina project. So those are my concerns. I'm going to, I'm cautiously optimistic, and I'm only supporting under those circumstances. But if we look, I think we've now had this, Mr. Evans, what, 6 years now, or 7, that we've been operating under a lease agreement?
It's over 5.
Just roughly.
Yes, it's about 2014.
So I would say 6 years. So that puts us at is it 100? Was it 120 a year, or 100?
Yeah. It's 120 a year now.
So that's what, 840,000, give or take. So I mean, that's almost a third of what we're being asked to purchase it for. So, absent of anything significant, I'm sure the gentlewoman from the 2nd District would present for the purchase of new homes for first-time buyers. So, I support this item, but I am cautiously optimistic.
We just lost you, Mr. McCoy. Your audio went out. Now he's frozen. Thank you, Mr. McCoy. I'm gonna move on. I support this project, this acquisition, based on a number of items, not the least of which is that I think they were asking more than 4 million when I originally heard about this project. And given that they're putting some extra properties in that would allow us to construct some workforce housing units, that would be a real boon to that neighborhood and to our economy in general. So you have my support, and I think we've, oh, he's back. Mr. McCoy, do you have anything else? No, okay. Anything else for the good of the order before we take a vote?
I wanted to say one more thing. I wanted to say to Mr. Vice Chair that I was not questioning your expertise, sir. Not at all.
Oh, no, Councilwoman Lanier, I know for sure.
No, I was just stating that PFM, who has done the Marina project proposal review, has, you know, they are national experts, and I think that they need to weigh in before we buy any more property in regards to this whole Marina project. And of course, you guys agree, and you know, you have a different view of this, but I know that based on that report and based on what it contains and how we're going to move forward with the Marina, that we need to be very cautious about how we do that. And I still say that the parcel, in terms of environmental issues, that it can be, you know, it can't impact other underdeveloped surrounding parcels. So I am not in support of it, and we can call the question.
Thank you very much. Is there any public comment? Let me just be sure there's no one else out there willing to weigh in on this. Miss again. No public comment? Oh, Mr. Mayor, lest I forget you there, waving your hand in the middle.
Councilperson Shirley Lanier, what would it take for us to get you to have a consensus vote?
Wait, Joyce.
Joyce.
Can we knock it out the box? Can you do it for us?
Well, listen, let me tell you something, Mayor, and I respectfully take your question with great consideration. But after my view of the PFM report on the Marina project, I am I was in reservation before, as you know it. I was in reservation before. I'm in more reservation at this point because of that report. And I want us to be able to understand that, you know, we're talking about millions of dollars. The concerns I have about the valuation, the concerns I have about the economic or the and the environmental impact. I just can't do it right now. So there's nothing you can tell me at this point, unless there's something that comes back to give us a whole new roadmap of this whole Marina project, then probably so. But at this point, given where it stands, I'm going to have to decline. And I appreciate you asking me that.
I respect it. Thank you.
Thank you for trying, Mr. Mayor. Madam Clerk, there were no public comments, were there?
And I would also say that I would hope that you guys would postpone this until we did hear from PFM. But I digress.
Madam Clerk.
There are no public comments.
Thank you. Would you call the roll? Would you call the question, please?
Commissioner Miller Anderson,
Yes.
Commissioner Lanier,
No.
Commissioner McCoy,
We've lost him.
we've lost him, okay. Vice Chair Lawson,
Yes.
Chair Botel.
Yes.
That motion carries with Commissioner Lanier dissenting and Commissioner McCoy absent for the vote.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, item number 7.
Item number 7, a resolution of the Board of Commissioners of the Riviera Beach Community Redevelopment Agency approving an amendment to the agreement with Merchant Strategy Incorporated, exercising the first option to renew for 1 year to provide marketing and public relations services, providing an effective date.
Could someone turn their mic off? Turn their mic off. We're getting feedback again.
Councilman McCoy.
Councilman McCoy, if that's you, thank you. Mr. Evans,
Anita Jenkins, our Director of Neighborhood Services, will present this item.
Thank you.
Excuse me, we need a motion and a second.
So moved.
Second.
Madam Chair.
Yes, you're back.
Somebody has their TV on or something.
Yes, somebody's got. It's okay now, whoever.
Has her mic on.
We're good now. Go ahead. We had a motion and a second. We can hear Ms. Jenkins' presentation now and then have discussion.
Good evening, Commissioners. Anita Jenkins, Director of Neighborhood Services. I'm very happy to present this item to you, requesting your approval to exercise the first one-year option to renew of the original contract with Merchant Strategy Incorporated, and ask you to approve a resolution to amend the original agreement to extend the term for 12 months until September 30th, 2021. And I have a short presentation for you. The Merchant Strategy is a company that was founded in 2003, incorporated a few years later, with extensive experience in public involvement, community government, public relations, marketing, and event management. Their team has highly diversified skills and work in government, transportation, real estate, development, nonprofit, and other industries. The Merchant Strategy is led by the two principals, Ms. Sharon Merchant and Ms. Valerie Staggs. And there are two very lovely pictures there if you've not had the pleasure of meeting them in person. And I might add that the Merchant team that works with the CRA is on the line if you have questions once I finish this presentation. Their services are marketing, advertising, social media, crisis management, public relations, special events, and expanding on our online purpose, which falls in very nicely with our goals to secure community participation, to grow our city's economic base, and to influence key audiences about our city's economic benefits and advantages. Here is a chart that Merchant prepared for us that suggests the proposed allocation of hours among those various tasks. And you can see them outlined there. And this is based on our most recent 12 months history in terms of where our time and effort and resources have been spent, primarily with social media, public relations, with our various newsletters, with flyers, etc. And you can see a further breakdown there. Our budget that we propose to allocate is the same amount we have allocated for this year for our marketing services of $100,000. And we're proposing that, and there's no increase in the dollars for Merchant for the 2021 budget year. And for marketing services, that works out to about $8,338.89 per month. And I should point out that out of that 100,000, the retainer that we're working on this year is $6,150 or $73,800 for the year. And the remainder of the $100,000 is used for additional special services, special events, etc., including things like our annual report, which we're required to create. Some of the CRA initiatives that Merchant has undertaken with us have been our community business spotlight that we've had on our social media and constant contact pages, as well as on utilizing the radio. They've assisted us with events and, of course, with our major social media, our e-newsletters, and various press engagements. I wanted to give you a few highlights of Merchant marketing by the numbers. For the past year, they've helped us to produce and to share 520 radio spots, 158 different video views. For social media posts, we've reached over 9,000 people concerning our business certification program, for instance. And we had a very popular posting of dolphins in the water off our marina, where we had a total of 254 minutes viewed. And that may not seem like a lot, but the views are in increments of 15 seconds, 30 seconds. So that's quite a bit of viewership there. And since March 19, we've been tracking, and we've seen an increase in our social media on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook by more than 55%. The frequency of our social media posts by more than 278%. Our incoming messages where people have questions or they compliment us, and sometimes, there are some critical messages of 306%, but overwhelmingly has been very, very positive. Our engagements, which are clicks, comments, and shares, have increased by more than 70%. And that translates into more than 445,000 impressions since March 19. We create a minimum of 2 e-newsletters monthly for events and general information. And in our constant contact, we have over 3,500 subscribers, which is very substantive. We have over 116,000 sends, over 18,000 opens, and over 1,700 clicks. They've created for us a minimum of 1 press release monthly, with over 1,500 online press engagements. We've had articles in various media, including Palm Beach Post, Florida Trend, with backlinks to our CRA website. And here is just some examples of the beautiful, beautiful press that we've received. You see our Moby Mats, which I don't think you've had an opportunity to experience yet at our marina. And that's compliments of a grant from the state of Florida. So we're getting some very good reviews on that. You see our popular Lion King event, and we have various other events that we've had at our marina, as well as neighborhood activities that we have promoted. I have to tell you, I don't have a slide here, but we're getting quite a bit of interest in our garden program that hopefully we'll share some updates with you later. Our recommendation as staff is asking you, the Board of Commissioners, to exercise the first 1-year option to renew and approve a resolution approving and authorizing the execution for marketing and public relations services to extend the term for 12 months. And that would take us through September 30th, 2021. So thank you. And I'll stop there and see if there are any questions.
Thank you, Ms. Jenkins. Any questions? I think Ms. Miller Anderson and then Mr. McCoy.
Okay, so a few years back, we had a person that we were utilizing for many years, and we were paying probably somewhere around the same neighborhood of the amount that we're currently paying. And, my concern has always been, for the amount that we're spending, I just sometimes don't see as much coming back on the receiving end. I see a lot of social media. Of course, I do see the Florida Trends, and I see, some press release for local newspapers, but I just really have a hard time with the amount that we pay for this type of stuff, and then the product that we get, which is majority social media. Can someone tell me about, like what else? Because just looking at what I see right now, I don't see how that adds up to that amount of money. I mean, I control my own social media, and I'm somewhat active on there, and I would not think that I was doing that amount of work for that amount of money. So can somebody kind of shed a little light on what else is being done besides a lot of social media? Is anybody on here to answer that? Where, Ms. Evans or Ms. Jenkins or Ms. Merchant? Anybody out there?
I'm here.
I can help answer, Anita, if you'd like. This is Colleen Hopkins with the Merchant Strategy.
Okay.
Okay. So we also create multiple stories within the newsletters, at least 2 a month. Those are multiple hours monthly, as well as the press releases. We continuously get, as Ms. Jenkins gets new grants, we create those press releases and distribute them to the press. We also help with promotional items, ordering, items for the marina, or most recently, we did some branded face masks for them as well. So promotional items are in there. Speaking with the media and getting those business spotlights, the radio spots, that is part of the media, as well as helping with events such as Winter Wonderland. We help create the buzz around upcoming events, and including, of course, all three items that I mentioned: press, newsletters, and social media, as well as in-person time of showcasing what's going on in the event, coordinating the radio stations to be at those events when needed. And we, oops, sorry, did I mute?
I might just jump in. Thank you all for having us here tonight. I'm Valerie Staggs, one of the principals at the Merchant Strategy. If I might just comment on social media, I realize that those of us who are older, like myself, have mixed feelings about social media and the impact that it makes on the public and on the brands that we're marketing, so to speak. But it is a huge method in this day and age, in this environment, in engaging people with your brand, in sharing your message, and in building followers and fans, and helping to promote everything that we have going on at the CRA. So I recognize that it, as far as the pie chart that we showed you, shows a big chunk of the pie is dedicated to that. But there's good reason for that, and that you can see in the statistics over the course of the year how much we've been able to build your brand on social media, and really more engagement for everything that the CRA is doing.
Anyone else? Or Mr. Miller Anderson, are you done? Thank you. Anyone else?
Madam Chair?
Okay, yes, Mr. Lawson.
Yes, thank you. Well, I did see the numbers, and I did see that there was a substantial increase in social media usage since March. But at the same time, I mean, everybody was just using social media. So that increase is based upon us being on complete lockdown, in addition to the marketing efforts, of course, the merchant firm has done. But it's also based upon a majority of residents and people are only able to use social media. So that increase was definitely aided by the pandemic we're experiencing. And I did see a lot of advertisement, a lot of marketing has been going on. So I am appreciative of what the Merchant Group has done so far. My only thought process and concern is in regards to extending the contract versus just trying to change the direction of what we're doing in regards to promotion of the CRA, the city. Majority of our residents don't really understand that dynamic, or the difference that we have two separate boards, a CRA, a city utility district. And I think this is the time now that we can kind of visit, taking a look at doing a combined marketing strategy across the board. There's a lot of functions that I want to keep separate. The CRA is independent of the city. The utility district is independent of the city and the CRA. But I think that the advertisement and marketing and how we display this CRA district needs to be in conjunction, in unison with our city. So all the information that we're putting out and the advertisements we're putting out needs to be in line with what the city's doing. So my thought process is asking Mr. Haygood, what would be the process of issuing a joint RFP for city and CRA for marketing and advertisement?
We have done it previously where there was some type of interlocal agreement between the city and CRA. I'm sure it can be worked out. The challenge comes in how you're going to select the person. You would assume that both boards would be on board with the same, same firm, but it'd be two selection processes, I think.
Well, I think I could talk to both boards and see what their thought process is going to be for marketing, and advertising for our city and our CRA. So I want to make sure that we kind of have a joint effort and that effort, everything in unison, advertising the city, the CRA, in one unified front. And I would love for the merchant group to come on and to respond to the RFP because they've done a phenomenal job with the CRA. But it's just duplicating those efforts on the city side, and I think that's kind of what we're lacking is that advertisement and marketing, the same efforts that they're doing on the CRA side. So if we can get better bang for our buck to kind of address what Ms. Miller Anderson was stating, is that the dollar amount we're paying just for the CRA could possibly be stretched to the city and CRA and share that cost. I'm sure it's going to be a larger amount that's going to come in, but at least it's going to be a shared cost across the board, and we can get a unified front where we're still operating on separate boards, but we're able to actually market the entire city as one unified city.
Madam Chair, is the chair may I respond to Mr. Lawson?
Is that Sharon? Was that Sharon? Who was that?
Yeah, this is Sharon.
Okay, yeah, you're like in an echo chamber, but go ahead. And then Ms. Miller Anderson wants to speak.
I just wanted to remind the board that our firm actually
Can you turn your volume down a little bit, Sharon? Or you're really like
speaking.
It's Sharon Merchant, the other principal of Merchant Strategies.
Is that better?
Yeah, it's very tinny, like, but we can deal with it. Go ahead.
I just wanted to say that our team did compete for the city's RFP to provide the same services, and we were recommended to you by your staff. And I just haven't been anywhere, but there actually has already been a competitive process where we were recommended to the city council to do these same services. So we'd be more than happy and delighted, frankly, to serve you in both capacities.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Miller Anderson and then Ms. Jenkins.
I think before the merchant group came on, we had O'Donnell Agency, and I believe they were doing both city and the CRA some time ago. And my memory serves me correctly, when we were doing budgeting one of the years, well, we got rid of the contract, but when we were doing budgeting, the city decided to try to bring it in-house. I believe that's where that second person came in with Walter, AJ, or that position. So I would imagine that's something that would need to be revisited again if we're talking about going to have another agency oversee the city. But I would think it has to go out for a competitive bid. I don't know that the merchant group can just get on board, just say we're gonna give it to them. I'm sure there has to be some kind of procurement process, just like we did for the CRA. But that is what happened. We did have it that way with an agency overseeing the CRA, but we did take it out and decide to bring it in-house.
Ms. Jenkins and then Mr. Lawson.
Excuse me, commissioners, but I was trying to caution Sharon. I understand that the city did have a solicitation on the street and it's under the cone of silence. And I just did not want any discussion about that because the city is in that process.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Jenkins. Mr. Lawson.
I'm gonna yield for a minute.
Mr. McCoy.
Thank you. Ms. Jenkins, the presentation, was that yours or was that from the merchant group?
It was my presentation. I used some of the statistics and some of the pictures from merchant, but I did the presentation.
Okay, you spoke about the retainer, and I'm a little concerned because, Madam Chair, when we start hearing a presentation, now I'm going to ask her to go back 5 minutes ago and try to remind me of what exactly she meant when she spoke about, she said something about the retainer, which was somewhere about, I don't know, she said 66%, but it wasn't very clear. And I'm trying to make sure I understood what that meant.
Sure, Ms. Jenkins, could you clarify that? Go ahead. I think what she was saying was that there was a retainer of 70.
Oh, Doc, I don't want you to think what she said. Excuse me, Doc. Can she? No, Doc.
Ms. Jenkins, go ahead.
The budget for the marketing services is $100,000. Of that, the retainer that we currently have in place is $6,150 a month. And just to explain the difference between the retainer, which comes to $73,800, and the budget of $100,000 for marketing services with merchant, those extra dollars are for extra activities, extra projects, special events that are not covered by the retainer. That's the way it was negotiated for this year.
Mr. McCoy.
Thank you for the follow-up. So I appreciate it. Thank you, Mr. Jenkins. I certainly respect the opinions of the previous members, but I just really don't think that I'm in support of doing or exercising this option, only because staff says so. In fact, I was hoping that this was going to go out anyways, because I'm not impressed. You know, I'm probably the most blunt and abrasive person on this body, but I mean, you got to really prove it to me. And just like anything here, it's very competitive. I wish that when my term is up, that I'm just allowed to just sit back in office without even competing for it. And in that note, and on those same sentiments, I just don't think that I've seen nothing that impresses me so much that I think somebody should be just given an additional option. I think it should be going out, and I would offer a substitute or alternative motion when all the other members are done speaking.
Ms. Miller Anderson, and then
I just inquired about that, that on the city side, and we do not have one on the street for that. We've actually, like I mentioned before, we're hiring people, or it was in our budget to have someone do that in-house. So there's nothing out there.
Ms. Lanier, I think it was.
I would have to agree with my colleagues in terms of putting this out to bid. This option of giving someone another year for this type of money is asking too much of us, not having other marketing firms compete for that. Second of all, I also agree with my colleagues in terms of the city and the CRA looking at joint marketing so that people understand, as Councilman Lawson said, understand the distinction between the CRA, the city, the utility district, but also marketing under the fact that it's still one city. So no, I could not be in support of this.
Anyone else?
Yeah,
Mr.
Madam Chair.
Lawson. Yeah.
I was just trying to get clarity. I just got a message from Mr. Evans. We don't currently have a RFP out on the city side for marketing. So I was confused as to what Ms. Jenkins was discussing in regards to the cone of silence. So right now, we don't actually have a RFP out. So we have the ability, but I know that we have staff that's currently doing the city marketing. I just want that unified front, and just to make sure that we represent the city and CRA in a direction that's kind of in unison. So even if we looked at the option of possibly bringing in a marketing director to work directly with the city as opposed to a firm, there's a few options that we have the ability to do within the organization to make sure that we have that unison between both. Because the benefit here is that we serve on both boards. So we have the ability to make the decision and keep it within the CRA underneath this district, but we also know what our entire city needs. And we need to have that same unified front on both ends.
Thank you, Mr. Wilson. Anyone else? Well, I am in support of this because staff is recommending it. I think that they've done an excellent job. I've seen, I also am pretty active on social media, and I get the documents that they send out, and I think they're well written and well thought out. And I don't know what the objection is to continuing them for another year. And I also agree with Mr. Lawson that it would be really good if we could look at having the same entity do both our CRA and our city publicity for us, because we are one city. It's one of those areas where the CRA and the city can actually function as a unit. So that's what I would be in favor of. It doesn't sound to me like we have 3 votes to approve this, but if it's Ms. Miller Anderson.
I mean, regardless, we have to go ahead and vote on it, whichever way it looks. But
yeah, sure.
I do just want to make sure that, people understand that this has happened before in regards, it's just, you know, with the marina, we are moving into a point where we're going to be doing a lot of business and getting things moving, and we do want to try to market that. But you know, when you look at the amount of money and the amount of things, activities that we're actually promoting, you know, you just have to think right now, is that really comparable to, you know, should we really be spending that amount right now on the amount of work or activity that's going on in that area? And that was the concern several years ago, which is why we did get, you know, we didn't have anyone. But looking at the city, we did bring on staff to take care of that. And, you know, I don't have the exact amount of what we're paying that staff, but I would imagine that, you know, having an in-house person on the CRA side, like Mr. Lawson just mentioned, maybe having a marketing director or a position in the CRA side, just like we have on the city side, that may be an option. And I was in support of it initially, you know, with the initial contract, because it had been a while since we had someone, and, you know, doing some things, and wanted to give everybody an opportunity to see how we could actually utilize it and if it was, you know, beneficial. But I just think, excuse me, I just think right now it does not warrant continuing, and especially if we're looking to bring in a director and get some things going, we may just bring it in-house. And like I said before, it was a matter of, you know, the amount of money for what we're actually promoting. You know, it's not a whole lot we're promoting over there. So that's where it's at.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Lawson.
And to your point, Councilwoman Miller Anderson, that is my concern, is that we're spending this amount of money on promotion and marketing, and we don't have any shovels in the ground. We're not addressing blight in our community right now. And we're really just kind of marketing and showcasing our CRA, our staff, the events we've hosted, versus actually showcasing the development, the ribbon cuttings of housing complexes, the Marina Phase 2. So right now, I don't want to spending that kind of money on marketing something that we're not truly doing in the CRA, which is addressing blight. So I want us to possibly revisit this. If staff can bring options to the next council meeting of possibly looking at in-house hires, of looking at a joint RFP to go out with the city and CRA, and also options of just other alternatives to cutting this cost on the marketing and strategy, and allowing for us to really focus on what the CRA needs to address.
Anyone else? Madam Clerk, did we have any public comments on this item?
We have no public comments.
Thank you. Let's call the question.
Commissioner Miller Anderson.
Excuse me, time out. Mr. McCoy.
Well, I was going to offer that we reject the resolution for an extension of 1 year, but if we're going to call a vote, I'll just vote it down.
Okay, Madam Clerk.
Commissioner Miller Anderson.
No.
Commissioner Lanier.
No.
Commissioner McCoy.
No.
Vice Chair Lawson.
No.
Chair Botel.
Yes.
That motion does not pass.
Thank you. Item number
8.
8, thank you.
Madam Chair.
Madam, wait 1 minute, please. It's 7:53. Did we have any public comments, general public comments?
We do not have any general public comments.
Thank you. Did you have something to say, Mr. Lawson?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Would we make a motion? Would we need to make a motion to instruct staff to come back with some options and alternatives for us to marketing in the CRA?
All right. If you'd like to make that motion, Mr. Lawson, please do so.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd like to go ahead and make a motion that we have staff come back with alternatives to marketing and PR for the CRA, which would encompass potential joint RFP and also the option of in-house hire.
Second.
Madam Clerk.
Commissioner Miller Anderson.
Councilman McCoy has a question. I'm sorry.
Councilman McCoy.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I want to make sure I'm understanding, and also Commissioner Lawson, are you suggesting that staff explores in-house? Is that what I heard you say?
Yes, sir. Staff brings options to the table, which would encompass in-house, a joint RFP with the city, and a new RFP process, because right now we have to readdress the marketing that we're doing.
And this is for Mr. Evans, the executive director.
Correct. And I know
Okay,
that we
so-
possibly, and I know the concern is that we have a new director coming on the table, but if we can at least see some options of what are available right now, we can be prepared and queued up so that when a director comes in, we can make that decision.
Okay, good enough. I just wanted to make sure I understood because it seemed kind of very fast that you threw that out there, and I want to make sure I got some clarification. And also keeping in mind that we're about to go through some sort of budget discussions on the CRA side, so that is at least something that Mr. Evans can kind of take back. But I wanted to make sure that we were clear and understood.
So can I add a caveat to that to kind of push that to the September meeting then? Since we do have budgets coming up, we have other discussions and pressing topics, if we can kind of give some time to push that item back to September, if possible, or see if my colleagues would be indulged in that.
Thank you, Ms. Miller Anderson. And then Ms.
So-
Lanier.
Mr. Evans, the contract ends at the end of September. We still have them until September?
Yes.
Okay, so that's perfect. That rolls in well, when we start having our budget discussion. So during the budget, if you check, you can check with the city and see how much, they have several people that are in those positions over there now instead of a contract of an organization. So maybe you can check on that and give a little insight on that. Thank
Ms.
you.
Lanier.
You finished, Ms. Anderson? Oh, yeah, I just wanted to ask, Mr. Lawson, you said in-house joint with the city, and what was your third option?
A new RFP.
Okay, right, okay. Yeah, that was it.
So if we're in agreement with the date, the motion with the addition would be my motion.
Can we leave it open for Mr. Evans? Because I mean, that seems to be more or less restrictive, and
right.
I don't know what.
I was just actually thinking that, Councilman McCoy. I agree. I think we should leave it open. Budget items are going to be a pressing topic. We do have our current marketing and PR firm here till the end of September, so I agree with you.
Well, I want to make sure that it doesn't come after October 1st because I don't want it to be a whole nother fiscal year, and now we still talking about the same thing.
Right.
And also too, we can the council members can bring some options. I mean, it's not just one or two things. We're looking at a variety of things of how we can do this.
So, Mr. Lawson, are you withdrawing your motion or amending?
I'm about to withdraw my motion. Let Councilman McCoy go ahead and jump on it.
No, I just wanted to make sure.
No.
Commissioner, you said
we're in agreement. We're in agreement, Commissioner. We are in agreement, sir. So I'm gonna amend, or I can actually restate the motion if that's okay.
Go right ahead.
I'd like to make a motion that we allow for staff to go out and find alternative options to marketing, which would encompass a new RFP, a joint RFP with the city, and an in-house hire prior to October 1 dates.
Second.
Any other discussion? Madam Clerk.
Commissioner Miller Anderson,
Yes.
Commissioner Lanier,
Yes.
Commissioner McCoy,
Yes.
Vice Chair Lawson,
Yes.
Chair Botel.
Yes.
That motion carries.
Thank you.
Madam
Item-
Chair,
Yes, who's speaking? McCoy.
I want to see if we can have that item back. I really dislike when there was the roll call. I could hear you guys, but I couldn't say anything. But all I heard was the clerk say that motion failed with Councilperson Lanier dissenting and Mr. McCoy absent. We got to understand, we got some technical challenges, and I don't know for what reason. I'm having a lot of bandwidth issues tonight, but I technically wasn't absent. I was like literally yelling on my side, but you just couldn't hear me. So we just got to kind of think about that. When you say absent, that makes it seem like I'm just neglecting my duty or something. I just wanted to point that out, but I definitely could hear you guys.
We would never accuse you of neglecting your duty, Mr. McCoy.
Oh, okay, but perhaps can we find a different terminology than absent? Because that seems like You know, I was trying to yell, but I guess you couldn't hear me. So.
Not here.
Bye-bye,
Okay,
gone.
that's all I
Not here due to technical difficulties.
Thank you. Item number 8.
Item number 8, a resolution of the Board of Commissioners of the Riviera Beach Community Redevelopment Agency, amending the Riviera Beach Community Redevelopment Agency Small Business COVID-19 Forgivable Loan Program, providing an effective date.
Would someone care to make a motion and a second?
So move.
Would someone care to second? I'm not hearing anyone.
Second.
Thank you. Mr. Evans, you have a presentation on this?
Yes, I'd just like to thank the board for approving this program previously and a previous amendment. This program's been very popular for our local business in the CRA. We're bringing this back to you tonight. We're requesting that the board approve an additional $37,050 for the program and then close all future applications. That amount would fund all of the applications that we've received to date. And then it would allow us also to put up notice so that we're not receiving applications without any money available. So we would ask tonight that the board consider adding that additional $37,050 to the program. It's utilizing small site acquisition funds, the same one that we utilized for the original program. So we would just transfer the additional $37,000 from that line item. This would allow us to fund 41 small business grants.
That's great.
And then to close the program without having to turn anyone away.
Great. Any questions from Commission? Mr. McCoy.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Evans. So it seems like I just spoke to the small business team just minutes before this meeting started, and they suggested to me that there were, I guess, maybe 3 that applied on the city side that were in fact in the CRA. Was that communicated to you? And then is those applications, are those applications consummated in this 37.5 that you're asking for?
Yes.
37.50, I'm sorry.
We were notified that there was 2 applicants who had applied on the city side who were in the CRA. We immediately contacted those applicants and they have submitted for the CRA. So we do have submittals from them, and that there would be enough dollars to fund the 2 that we received.
Was one of them Andrea's or something of that sort?
Yes.
Andrea's.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Yeah, I would hope we can close it because this has been kind of unusual that we had a number of applicants who were in the city apply for the CRA, and they had to be turned away. And then when the CRAs closed and the city started, we had a number of applications from businesses that were in the CRA to apply over on the city side. So I would like to see, I think we had the plan of those on the city side being dispersed this week, and hopefully we can kind of close this and kind of move forward. But it's just kind of been more than what I thought as far as the amount of staff time that it was taking. So I certainly support the item, and I would hope that we can move this forward and then also close the acceptance of new applications. That's all.
Anyone else?
Yes, Madam Chair, real quick. Mr. Evans, after we go forward with this item, could you just give a quick update on the signage program that we were doing as well? Because 2 of the applicants have inquired in reference to the ones in the plaza on the corner of Blue Heron and Broadway, just if we had a status update for them for the signage. But I know that's off the topic of this one, but since we were talking about grants and signage, I wanted to address that.
Sure.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Sorry, after we go forward with the vote.
Did we have, Madam Clerk, do we have any public comments on anything else for the rest of this agenda? Madam Clerk?
No, we have no public comments and nothing else listed.
Thank you. Go ahead, Ms. Miller Anderson.
But we don't close the comments, right, until we get to the item, right?
Right, but I just wanted to know, I wanted to know if we had any, so that I could be thinking about it. Do we have any other comments from council about, or commission about this item? Madam Clerk?
No public comments.
Commissioner Miller Anderson,
Yeah.
Commissioner Lanier,
Yes.
Commissioner McCoy,
Yes.
Vice Chair Lawson,
Yes.
Chair Botel.
Yes, thank you.
That motion carries.
Item number 9.
A resolution of the Board of Commissioners of the Riviera Beach Community Redevelopment Agency approving the Ninth Amendment to the lease for office space between the agency and Millennium One LLC to extend the term of the lease by 1 year through September 2021 with an increase of 3%, providing an effective date.
Would someone care to make a motion to approve? Thank you.
So moved.
Thank you. That was a second then, Mr. McCoy. We had someone else make the motion. Thank you.
I'll just add that we've been working on our signage grant program with Treasure Coast
yes.
Regional Planning Council. They have identified a number of priority sites where we could implement the pilot program. They're preparing a presentation to bring to the CRA board so you can review the specific sites and what they're proposing to put at those locations. So we will have that presentation for you in September. But what I'd like to do is we can circulate some of the preliminary materials so you can look at the pilot properties that we're looking at in a couple of weeks because they've already been drafted. We just need to finalize.
Okay, can we just have some communication notice or just a correspondence sent out to the businesses that are currently in limbo about those, because they applied for the grant program and they're asking me for updates and I'm like, I gotta wait till this meeting to find out what's going on with the project. And I know that we're kind of shifting focus with doing a more unified, a broader approach at the signage. So if we could just let them know what's going on, just to give them an update.
Okay, yes.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Evans.
Okay, Anita Jenkins, our Director of Neighborhood Services, will present this item.
Thank you, Mr. Scott, Mr. Evans. This is an item asking you to approve the Ninth Amendment to the lease for our office space here at 2001 Broadway for an additional year. We'd like to exercise the option to extend the term of the lease from September 30th of 2020 through September 30th, 2021 at the rental rate of $18.33 per square foot. This is a 3% increase over our current rate and was negotiated in the 8th Amendment on last year. Our current per square foot rate is $17.80 a square foot plus applicable sales tax. We currently lease 6,307 square feet at our main location, and the extension is necessitated by the fact that we will not be in our new space at Broadway and Blue Heron by September 30th of this year. We've included a timeline, and there is a small typo in one of the dates for contract administration. We're anticipating that that building will be finished on or before January 1st of 2022. Our interim strategy is to continue to rent our current space, try to shorten the development timeline as much as possible, and be preparing to move. The fiscal impact for fiscal year 2021 will be $115,607.31, or $9,633 in change per month. Our current fiscal impact, current amount is $112,264.60. And the new rate, as I said, would reflect a net increase of 3%. So staff is asking and recommending for an approval of the Ninth Amendment to our current lease at 2001 Broadway. So I'll stop and answer any questions.
Thank you. Any questions? Mr. Lawson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Ms. Jenkins, you said that the plan is to have the building completed by 2022, January?
On or before that, we're anticipating that the timeline will be shortened, but trying to be as conservative as possible. In your packet, we've included where we are now. The schematic design and site plan approval process, the remaining part of it should be completed no later than November 6th. We're hoping it will be sooner. Then the design, development, and construction documents will take about 16 weeks. So on that timeline, they'd be finished on or before January 2nd of 2020. Then bidding and permitting, we're estimating about 22 weeks. And then the construction administration for the actual redevelopment of the site should be finished no later than January 1st of 2022.
Little typo in here, but
I'm just I'm a little cautious and hesitant because, well, number one, the terms of this lease is only going till September next year. So are we going to be back for renewal again with a month-to-month option? Are we going to operate virtually for 4 months till we're closed, till we open? What is our plan for that time frame, since our projected schedule is January, but the lease is only through September?
We'd like to see where we get to in the construction process by this time next year. And then we would propose to bring you an amendment if we need to extend past September. We've enjoyed very good terms with our existing landlord. The site, our office is already completed, and we've been here a long time now, I believe about 9 years. So we would bring you an amendment next year. And of course, right now we're exercising the option on the existing lease that was approved last year. And we can already start discussions with him, but until we get to next summer, we won't really know the exact date that we can move out.
So for exercising the option on this existing lease, is it possible to also include an amendment to the lease requesting a month-to-month when this option is completed afterwards?
The board could approve it that way, and if the landlord is amenable, then we can go ahead and exercise it. And if he's not, then I can bring it back to you.
I'm just, honestly, Mr. Evans, I'm just kind of hesitant with us, with the CRA being able to get that building up by January, because right now I see that we have the Dairy Bell that's going on over a year now, and that's 400 square feet compared to 20,000 square feet. So I'm just very frustrated with that timeline and the process of what we need to do. I know that I asked to possibly get some feedback on what's going on with Dairy Bell from our director tonight, but I don't know if just another lease and just preparing for a move-in by January is even feasible, because we haven't seen any progress yet. So if we don't include something, I'd like to add an amendment to the terms of the lease to present to the landlord to request a month-to-month option, so that next month we're not having the same discussion to kind of extend it for a month. Because if we have some additional city facilities available, we could possibly look to moving our CRA to one of those facilities and offsetting this cost. Because if we can find some space in the city or somewhere, one of our buildings, I want us to have an out clause and have some alternative options if that building is not ready by January 2021.
Okay,
Mr. Lawson.
I think you'll be agreeable to that change.
Who made the motion? Was it yours, Mr. Lawson? Ms. Lanier, are you willing to modify the motion to reflect the change that Mr. Lawson just?
But before he gives his modification, I wanted to ask a couple of questions though.
Okay.
Yes, please go ahead.
Are you finished, Mr. Lawson?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Thank you, Councilman Lanier and Madam Chair.
Yeah, I wanted to ask, I had the same concerns that, he was reading my mind in terms of when I first saw this piece here. The city on Saturday and Sunday were talking about options, such as modular options. You can do something like that and be in the building in December. This type of money and, with this long-termness, and especially given the fact that there are projects, that little 400 square feet that haven't even gotten finished yet. And we're talking about a huge project here. And I just think that to sign leases like this, if not even a modular option, places in the city, the CRA has a property, just doing this over and over again. And we know, we are cautious, we're optimistic, but we know that's not going to happen in January. So, in light of that, we need to be very careful about moving forward. I like the modular option. I like the option of looking at other CRA properties. I like the option of looking at other city properties. Anything other than paying this type of rent for Because we can do it if we had no other options, but we do. So I think we should exercise them.
We don't have any other offices that we own that we could move into. We have some land, of course, but
and land means modular. Land means that you could be in that same place in December.
Are you wanting to change? Let's hear from Mr. McCoy, and then I'll ask if you want to change your motion. Go ahead, Mr. McCoy.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Evans, what is the current cost of renovations for that proposed space, and where does that money come from?
That is the proposed renovations is $3.2 million, and that's in our capital projects budget. So we've borrowed those dollars already, and they're waiting for us to implement the project.
Okay, what happened with 3.2 million, and we're talking about December 2021?
2020? No, I'm not. We were talking about hopefully getting the building completed by January of 2022. This lease for this office is up on September 30th, I believe, Anita. So
Yes.
That's the time frame that we're working with. And as a redevelopment, the modular idea was suggested, and I think that works really well when you're trying to get emergency services into new buildings quickly. But as a redevelopment, that is not the kind of redevelopment that we're trying to accomplish citywide. So if the board directed me to immediately look to move to new office space, and I would try to look for other office space in the area. Before this lease was approved last year, we did a market study to understand what the lease rates were in the local area, and we looked at what the city was paying at the Port Center, which is a very almost exact same amount, which is also a good rate. So I know that the lease rate for this office space is ideal, but we would need to extend the lease in some way if we are going to have office space beyond September 30th.
Okay, and I support that, but modular, it doesn't sound as good as it sounds, because you got to think about it. You know how much those units cost to bring a modular unit? I mean, just transport alone, you're talking about, I mean, if it's the modular units that like I see the school district uses for classrooms, you're talking $30,000 to $40,000 in just transport, right? Then whatever the moving cost is going to be, plus you got to tie in utilities, which is not cheap. I don't know what would really be the benefit of using a modular in the short term to then turn around and only, be maybe 5 or 6 months, and then possibly have to now move again and have moving costs all over again to relocate back into that building on the corner of Blue Heron and Broadway. I don't see that that's any benefit at this point. So I support extending, and I support extending at least for a year, and then I like the month-to-month option that Commissioner Lawson proposed.
Ms. Miller Anderson, and then Mr. Lawson.
And Ms. McCoy, you say 5 or 6 months, you're talking about the remaining part of this year? When you say 5 or 6 months, what 5 or 6 months?
So if we carried this lease from this September 30th until October 1st of next year, then from October 1st up until his proposed date of 2021 January would be about 5 months.
Okay, to do the month-to-month for that time frame?
Right. Then the moving cost twice would be a sunk cost. So I mean, I don't understand. I mean, I don't know how much has to be moved, but it just seems like that's going to be a whole lot of movement. But that's why the month-to-month option seems a little more palatable, in my opinion.
But to start the
you would be much cheaper.
Right. To start the month next year, not now.
Next year.
To renew for
Correct.
1 year?
Correct. 2021.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Mr. Lawson, and then Ms. Lanier.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Councilwoman Lanier. That was actually a great recommendation from that module, because this workshop that we had this weekend gave us some alternatives and options, because we're looking at over $100,000 in leasing CRA building, and we wouldn't actually need to move if we utilize, for example, the site that we have to establish that module, the old CRA site, I'm sorry, the old City Hall location on Broadway. We actually own a lot of land on there. So if we set up one of these modular buildings, that could be utilized by the CRA until our building is ready on the corner of Blue Heron and Broadway, and then the city could utilize that same to actually save costs. So the CRA could then sell it over to the city, because the city is kind of looking at that option as well. So giving us the opportunity to only have to purchase one building for the usage of the CRA and the city, and converting it over for city use. So it's definitely could save us a lot of money, because yes, Councilman McCoy, it's going to be expensive to tie it into utilities, transportation, but if we just strategically handle it in a one stop, where we bring it in for the CRA, and while we're doing that same option with the city, if that's the direction the city's going, the city can then utilize that for city facilities while our facilities are being rebuilt. So thank you, Councilwoman LaCoy, for bringing that. I'm sorry, thank you, Councilwoman Lanier, for bringing that back up, because that was a great idea, great discussion from a workshop that was amazing that someone missed.
Oh, stop.
Oh, she was there for that part? Oh, okay.
No, he means McCoy.
She was there. She was there the whole time.
She was there.
I give her credit. She was there.
We did learn a lot.
Somebody had some prior obligations, but Councilwoman Lanier was definitely there.
Let's
I have one question though, Madam
Ms.
Chair.
Miller-Anderson. Yes, go ahead.
Mr. Lawson, you're talking about extending for the year. Wait, Lawson? Do the year still? Can't hear you now. Do the year and then modular after the year instead of the month to month?
Yeah, I mean, it's too close to try to move them by September. Like right now, it'd be a great option if we would have, learned about that module about 2-3 months ago, because it takes 3-4 months, I think, to get it up and running. Because Mr. Evans and Chief Kerr presented that we could get a module building put up within a few months, but it's just too close to kind of do that now. So I would extend for the year, and then instead of renewing, we just do a month-to-month option, setting up a module building, so that if the building is not ready by 2021 January or whatever time frame, we can utilize that for CRA and city functions, and kind of work in unison with the city and CRA.
Well, in that case, why wouldn't we want to do a month to month now until we're able to move into? No, I'm just suggesting that if we are going to think about doing a modular, we may as well do it sooner rather than later. If we really are seriously considering doing and the thing about the modular, as you've said, is we can then sell it to the city, because we know we're going to need the modulars as we do the city projects that we have.
We can put it on the city land. We can put it downtown while we utilize that land, because it gives us that option of allowing the cities to just move their facilities into that building while we're demolishing other ones. So customizing to where it works for the CRA building and then for the city.
Ms. Miller-Anderson.
But with the lease, with the amount change, Mr. Evans, would it be more to do a month to month, or it will still be the same? Are they open?
I don't think that we can go back to the landlord and ask. Adding the month to month at the end of the 1 year extension, I think is very feasible. Just changing to a month to month, that may not be well received by the landlord at this time. But we can try it.
Can we do a 6 month?
Short notice. And additionally, he's losing that commitment. Whereas if we say, well, we're going to commit for 1 more year and then go to month, he has some sort of motivation to approve that.
I mean, I like the 6 month. Can you check on 6 months as well?
I can.
I mean, because you still have to do the utilities and all. I don't know. I'm not sure how that.
If we started on a modular building now, it would still be 6 to 8 months before we could be in and operating, because we have to procure it, select. Then once the board approves the project, then it has to go to permitting. Then once it's through permitting, then they can actually do the construction. So there's a lot of steps that include a lot of different board approvals before we can go to the next step. So we can start working on that now. And I think a year would be feasible. We could have it ready.
You should do that, Mr. McCoy.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is for Commissioner Lawson and also for the gentlewoman from the 2nd District. I'm not trying to be flip or nothing, but my name is Councilman McCoy, and I would appreciate if you referred to me as that. That came off a movie I seen about a week ago.
I was gonna say, because I don't recall that happening just now. Maybe I missed something.
No, I remember the movie that we watched about a week or two ago. That was
Yeah,
a
I
great
didn't think
movie.
it was showing again tonight. I didn't see it.
Got my popcorn for that.
But
All right, let's move.
in
move
all
along.
seriousness, here's my question, Mr. Evans. So, I think I think it's a good conversation what we're having, but I think what I want to find out is where are we at with Broadway and Blue Heron? Because I know last year I at least wanted to go in there and see, but at what point and how much money are we going to pull into this building before, till we realize how much this is really worth? Because we're talking about $3.2 million. And I wanted to find out, I thought this was mentioned before, but did we not have a more recent and up-to-date feasibility or economic feasibility plan for that building? Because I know in some last meetings, I remember the city manager speaking of possibly seeing if that corner could be repurposed for some city's operations. And I want to know exactly where we are with that, because the other thing that comes to mind is, aside from that, is what are we doing as far as construction? Has there been any conversation about any plans or anything like that that supports these $3.2 million? Because I've not heard anything of the sort.
That was the original estimate before we bought the building, that could cost $3.2 million to renovate it. The architect is currently working on updated cost estimates. Now that they've finalized that level, 30% level plans, we're working on a presentation that we'll bring to the August CRA meeting to outline the uses, go over the proposed cost estimates, and outline all the next steps for the project. And of course, that includes site plan approval, going out for our contractor, and then completing the project. So we'll bring that back to you, including all of the uses and what we propose to do, which also includes creating a business incubator, co-working space, small business cafe, and maybe some potential other uses on the ground floor that we can sort of co-locate with that cafe.
Thank you, Mr. McCoy.
So, Mr. Evans, that just seems like a whole lot that has to be done. And we're talking about members. I think I've heard it suggested 6 months. We haven't even had conversations, and you're saying that those preliminary construction cost estimates were before we even purchased the building. Now, we've had this building at least 2 years, probably 3 by now, right?
So we purchased the building, and then we went out to hire architects. So that procurement process took time, of course. So the board approved the REG to be our architects. That was one step and hurdle that we made it through. And then REG has now produced 30% plans. So we now know what it's going to take. They've had their engineers study it. So we have a much better level of plans in which to get updated estimates. So we are currently working on those estimates for you. And we couldn't update the estimates until we completed the plans, the 30% plans, which show how we would refurbish the building.
How long have we had the building, Mr. Evans? That was my question.
I would have to refer to Mr. Hager, but I believe we closed in December of 2018, perhaps?
November 20.
Say again, Mr. Haygood.
November 2018.
So following that, that's when we started the procurement process to hire the architects, and then the architects began the design process.
Okay, I don't even see a year. 6 months is definitely out of line. I mean, nobody's even really been in here to start any demo, even seen anything as far as any construction costs or even proposals. So, the procurement process in itself, just for going out to do construction, is going to be lengthy. So I don't see how we can even talk about possibly doing a 6 month and a month after that. Because what's going to happen is if we move to those modulars, we're going to be 2 years in those modulars with the unknown, because that building's been there. And obviously if the bank, community savings, and then BB&T didn't think it was, good for their operations, I don't see that this is something that's going to turn over in 6 months. So I don't think that that's a good idea, and I support us extending for a year. That's all I have.
Okay, anyone else?
Um,
All right, so
I,
the motion as it stands, if I could just, was it your motion, Ms. Lanier? Did you make the motion?
no, Mr. Lawson made the motion.
Mr. Lawson, the motion that you made originally was to accept the 1 year without asking for the manager to look at, or director rather, to look at the month-to-month option. Did you want to change your motion to include that we were asking the director to look at a month-to-month option after the year? Or do you want to leave your motion the way it was?
Yes, Madam Chair, I'd like the motion, my motion is to go ahead and renew for 1 year, look at month-to-month options after that year, or ask for a month-to-month option after that year. And at that time, we can address the module opportunity that's available. Being that, and that's the motion. And then I'll give comments after that.
And who made the second? Who did the second?
I think
was it Ms. Lanier? Do you accept his modification?
Ms. Tamara should know. She should have written it down.
Tamara, who made the second?
To tell you the truth, I didn't have Lawson down. I had Lanier down as the motion, and I had McCoy as the second. So,
okay, so
I usually have to go back after the meeting and watch it over to get the.
Well, Lanier,
option, I'll second, and we'll go from there.
All right, well, let's make it that was the motion maker, Mr. Lawson, right there, because he stated it, and Ms. Lanier made the second, and then we can vote on that. Before we proceed, though, Mr. Evans, could you please give us an updated project timeline, because this has you moving in January 1st of 2021, and I know that's not what you said.
Yeah, that was a typo. It was supposed to say January 2022.
I want to be able to cut and paste this into some things to send out to people. People have been asking me about this timeline, and I want to be able to share it. So if you could send us the updated version, that would be great.
Yes. Just a real quick question, Madam Chair.
Yes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The reason I wanted to do that 1 year, because the BB&T building, the landlords have been really good to the CRA for years. Number one. Number two, that building's actually almost at 100% occupancy. And I just don't want us to just look at month to month or 6 month now, and then we lose that opportunity. But I do also want us to really look aggressively on working with the city at this module opportunity, because if the city is going to move forward with that, we could use some of that space there so that after this year, we can be prepared to move there while we wait on completion of our current building that's building on the corner. Because even if it's just a joint project, the city and the CRA use the office space together, that'd be a good solution for us. But definitely want to at least give a commitment to the landlord in good faith for this year, to let them know that we will be there for this year. We're going to start looking at options while we prepare for our new building.
Thank you.
Thank
Anything
you,
else?
Thank you. I wanted to make sure that, Mr. Lawson, that you add the modular option review as a part of the motion after the 1 year term. Is that a part of the motion?
It's not
currently. It's not part of the motion, but we can add that to the motion, just so that we know that it's already on the record. They could take a look at it, so we don't have to come back and revisit it.
Okay.
So if we can add to the end of the motion, Tamara, that we would also like to have the review of the module opportunity at the 10-month mark. At the 9-month mark.
Ms. Miller Anderson.
Also, I understand that there's something called a cube farm that we could possibly look at doing and utilizing the small room in the marina. I don't know how busy the small rooms are. See about putting some cubicles in there or something, maybe. That may be an option later on down the line. Instead of doing
the only challenge to that was I'm hoping previous to COVID, the event center, of course, was booked 3 to 4 days a week. So if
smaller rooms, the small ones?
Yeah, especially on the weekends. So if we got to the point where we were going to move to month, that space is big enough probably to do something like that, but we would have to then cancel all those reservations. So, but we will start working on the modular option now, because if we're going to present in 9 months, then we need to begin working. If we're going to present it to you when there's only 9 months left on this current year's lease, then we'll start working on that immediately.
Thank you. Anything else? Madam Clerk.
Commissioner Miller Anderson.
Yes.
Commissioner Lanier,
Yes.
Commissioner McCoy,
Yes.
Vice Chair Lawson,
Yes.
Chair Botel.
Yes,
The amended motion carries.
thank you. Discussion by Executive Director?
Yes, I have a couple of updates to get presented to the board. One on our community garden program, which will start with Anita, and then she'll be followed by Andre, who will provide an update on the Dairy Bell project.
Good evening again, Commissioners. I just wanted to give you a brief update on our Sow and Grow program that we kicked off on July 1st. And this is a program that has been embraced and developed by the Health and Human Services Committee. And thank you, Commissioner Lanier, for your support and for your vision. And thank you, Commissioner Lawson and McCoy, for your promise of additional support for the program, dollar-wise. To date, we've received 42 applications. 15 are located in the CRA district and 24 are located outside the CRA district. Of the 42, 3 are ineligible due to having one having a Lake Park address, and there are 2 addresses that we've not been able to verify in Papa. So we're going back for additional information. If you have an opportunity to drive by the garden, you'll see our temporary pod on the concrete pad there. You'll see a mound of beautiful soil that's been balanced, and we have all of our materials on site. Our gardeners have started to assemble the kits, and they've been calling residents for appointments. So we'll let you know, so hopefully you can come by and socially distance yourself, but be able to take a photo with some of our residents. And we hope in the fall we'll be able to show you the fruits and vegetables of this program. But the response has just been very, very positive. So thank you.
Thank you. Mr. McCoy?
Ms. Jenkins, I wanted to ask you what I committed to, because I thought I committed to supporting the sod improvement, but I may be wrong, for the CDC.
I could be wrong as well. I just know you promised support. We'll make sure it goes to the right program. And that means Commissioner Lawson promised dollars for the garden program then.
No, they both promised money for the garden.
I thought so.
Clear.
Commissioner Lanier will follow up on that.
She can't follow up. She can't follow up with us.
She'll follow up with me, but she'll be my backup for it. So thank you.
I'll do it for you, Ms. Jenkins.
Thank you.
You had another presentation by Andre?
Yes, good evening, Commissioners, Chair, Vice Chair, Mayor. So I wanted to give you a quick update on the Dairy Bell. So about a week and a half ago, we saw the light at the end of the tunnel. We were at about 80% with the plumbing, electrical, 100% at the windows and doors. We were in the process of having our AC unit roughing completed. And then we had several pitfalls that I wanted to talk about that we ran into. So the first issue would be the electrical issue. The inspector told us, and I want to preface by saying we have approved plans. So the electrician was moving as per plans. He was told that he had to modify his installation for some energy efficient dimming lights. And there's a special mechanism that he has to order, he wasn't able to get approval, his inspection approved. We had to get the parts ordered. We had to have a rep come out to make sure that it was compatible with what we were doing. So that was our first impediment. The second one is the AC installation. Originally, the engineer's calculations were for 2 AC units, which is not really feasible for a 500 square foot space. So we went down to a 1 unit, which the inspector called for us to do a revision on the plans. So that was submitted, that was approved and paid for, and we're going to be moving forward. The final one is the ADA issues. So again, we were bringing the building up to what was already there. We were told that now that we need to make the restroom ADA compliant, which is gonna put a large impediment, not a large impediment, but is gonna push us back because we're gonna have to change the plans, get another revision, and, you know, complete the build out of the restroom. So we hear your cries, I hear your frustration. This is something I address every day. We speak to the contractors every day. And I try to maneuver these guys so that no time is wasted, but we continue to run into things. It's an older building. At the beginning, we ran into underground work, which wasn't foreseen in the beginning. We thought we were able to just do a straight line, hooking up existing plumbing. We were told that the underground pipes were shot, so concrete had to be cut, pipes had to be pulled up, and new connections had to be completed. So again, we're working as feverishly as we can to get this completed. And those are the updates that I have.
Thank you. Any questions? Ms. Miller-Anderson.
Yes, I've spoken to Mr. Evans about this project the other day, because like I mentioned before, I mean, this is a very small project. You know, I hate to see us managing the BB&T building if we can't even get this smaller project done in a timely fashion. And the thing is, I mean, are there, what is there has to be some sort of mechanism in place for them if they're not meeting the deadlines. So is it more the contractor or is it more of us? What is it? I mean, because if they say they can do it in 90 days and they don't get it done in 90 days, then obviously there's some consequences for them not getting it done. And it's certain things they should know that it sounds like they don't know, and we're coming up on it in, you know, at happenstance. And then also, you know, just like I said about, I mentioned to you all about that garbage can dumpster sitting out there, and, you know, days gone by and nobody's really doing anything. And then we're responsible for paying for those dumpster, for the things that people in the community are putting in the dumpster. So I'm just very concerned about the management of the project, because if the people are not doing what they need to be doing, then we need to hold them accountable. So who is it on?
I would like to add just to that. So we were getting close, but the latest delay is to make the bathroom ADA compliant. So we submitted plans to the city building department. Those plans were approved, and the contractors were proceeding with the work in accordance with the plans. So this is not from the contractor. But during one of our inspections, one of the city employees felt like that because we were doing so much work in the building, that we also had to bring the bathrooms up to ADA compliance, which obviously would require us changing our plans, which were approved. So we did investigate with the city, and they said that we do have to do that. So it's unfortunate, but I wouldn't blame the contractor, since we had the plans drawn up for the changes we wanted to make to the building. They got approved, and then during the inspection process, that's when they found this additional item on the bathrooms.
Right, and you mentioned that to me the other day when we spoke about it, and I said even that didn't make sense, because if the plans were approved, I don't understand how now all of a sudden they go in and say, oh, well, you need to do this now. But besides that, I mean, that's what's most recent. I mean, the project has been going on far too long. You know, whatever issues were going on prior to that, was it a contractor issue or no? Or was it a oversight issue?
No, it wasn't a contractor issue. Like, for example, when we went to put in new fixtures, then we realized that the plumbing connections, which go all the way out to the street, were degraded. And then as we investigated that, we found out that the pipes were degraded all the way from the building to the street. So the plumber that we had working on the project took care of it. But of course that change, we have to revise the plans, and then the plans have to get reviewed by building department, and then the contractor can then do the new amount of work. So there's just been a number of unexpected things that have happened, but I wouldn't blame the contractor. And when the problems do come up, I will thank the city for working with us to try and help us get them moving again.
So what is the timeline to finish it now?
Originally, we had August 30th as a dead stop date, but we have our architect working on the drawings, which he's completed a rough sketch, rough revision, I should say. So once we've gotten that back, we have to get pricing for the modification to the restroom. But we're not moving in a linear fashion. We're going to have multiple things going on at one time. But the first thing, we don't want our contractors to do any more work, and we're having walls to be moved. If the electrician has ran wiring, things of that nature, he would have to run it again. So the first things first is to find out where the bathroom needs to be modified, get that approved, and have the electrician and the plumber come back out and complete their work.
Are you done, Ms. Mittler-Anderson? Thank you. Mr. Lawson.
I believe Councilwoman Lanier was before me.
Oh, I'm sorry, Councilwoman Lanier, Commissioner Lanier. That's why I always just say Mr. and Mrs. because I get Commissioner Lanier.
Thank you. I want to certainly relay Councilwoman Anderson's concerns and her frustration with this project, because I'm at the same point with this. We originally, when we first came to become city council people, at that maybe first or second meeting of the council, of the commission, we talked about this project. It was supposed to be a project at the time, within 9 months, it was supposed to be completed. We were supposed to be able to get that tenant in. A part of the project was that we were going to every 3 years intubate somebody else into that to that location, but we haven't even got the first person in yet. So it becomes a situation where, you know, all night long we've been talking about 3 million here, 4 million here, and these huge square footage in these projects, and we got 400 square feet, smallest property you guys are working with altogether, and it does not seem to be able to get anywhere. And the thing about it is that I think the frustration comes is that every meeting, every other meeting, we hear something about, you know, what, you know, problems you ran into, but it's 400 square feet. I mean, we are dealing with a lot of square footage here in terms of what we're putting money in the CRA. But to have this 400 square foot, and the poor girl, you know, who's been waiting on this building to start her business, you know, it just really isn't fair. And so when we are trying to, you know, bring her in and then recycle her out for another tenant to come in 3 years, it's like we can't even get started with it. So I myself voiced some frustration about the fact that this small property with the CRA's big budget, all these people working at the CRA and the contractors and the contacts that you have, that for 400 square feet you can't get this done. That's embarrassing.
Mr. Lawson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So, Mr. Lewis, so the time frame, I know that we don't have a set time frame. The hard stop was August 31st, but with the pipes deteriorating under the building and the power, there's a power issue, I guess, with the too long of lines. Do we have an expected timeline for when this building will be complete?
Well, this issue, as I said, was a new issue. This came up this week. Other than that issue, we could have definitely met our timeline or our goal of August the 30th. Finding out this new issue as far as making this the building ADA compliant, I don't know what effects it's going to have on the timeline. Hopefully shorter, but I can, as soon as I find out, I will send out an update to you guys so that you know. I don't foresee a long wait time, but again, the permitting process and those times, you know, they take a while. So it's not just as simple as me telling them to go out there and do the work. That we're every time we get on a roll, we're running into different issues because it is an older building.
So I guess that was part of the issue that Councilwoman Lanier and Anderson expressed, that in the frustration, because some of the businesses that are succeeding, this business would actually be able to succeed due to what's going on with COVID, because it actually allows for social distancing. It's a drive up or walk up type thing where they can just serve their clients. So we're doing a disservice to this person and then the next individuals that are waiting for the next 2 to 3 years. The issue or concern I have is that a lot of this should have been researched prior to us even putting RFP out, to really getting the accurate contractor's bid on the table, so that we could at least have somebody that we can point the finger at to say, listen, this is why it's happening this way, because we should have known this at the beginning. So time frame, if we can expedite this, if we need to work overtime and weekends to get this done, we have to show our residents in the community that we're serious. We've been here 16 months. It's the new electeds and some of our seasoned veterans over there. They've been there a little longer, and they want to see some stuff done prior to election time coming up. They want to see something happen, because we told our residents that we're going to get to work, we're going to do something, and we're frustrated because we can't show them a finished product. And I want to show them a finished product. So if we have to work double time, if we have to work triple time on this and weekends, if we can get weekly or bi-weekly updates. This is the first project that the CRA has truly completed since we've been here. And it's 16 months and it hasn't been done. As Councilwoman Lanier stated, it was put on the agenda within the first 1 or 2 weeks. So I really want this within the first 1 or 2 meetings of us being on council. So I want this to be a priority, because we've just voted tonight to even move forward with other facilities, other buildings, a purchase of land, and we're entrusting that staff is going to get this done. Yet we need to see something. Yes.
Mr. McCoy, can we let Mr. Evans respond, and then I'll go to you and then Ms. Lanier?
Are you asking me? My response is no.
Okay, go ahead, Mr. McCoy. Thank you.
Thank you. To Commissioner Douglas Lawson's point, I mean, I hope you guys keep in mind that Dairy Bell in the building on the corner of BB&T, I'm sorry, the former BB&T on the corner of Blue Heron and Broadway, about the same age. So if you're thinking that this is going to turn over in that time frame, we're going to be in for a very large surprise, because that is a very old building. $3.2 million, I think that's on the very low end. And, you know, the idea about modular sounds good, but I think the timeline is going to be completely shattered, because if we had this little small problem with a 400-foot, that's the size of somebody's garage. Okay, that's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Evans.
Let me interrupt him, Council Chair. I just wanted to ask, because he can answer the same at the same time. I just want to know how much this has cost us since we started with this. What was budgeted and what it is now, because I know that there had to be some more costs incurred with this.
Yeah, we expected the cost to be $34,000 with additional costs for demolition and a little bit of site work immediately around the building. The current cost expenditures, Andre, how much have we spent thus far?
We've expended about 36,000 right now.
Okay, so of the 42,000 total budget, we're starting to get close to that limit. However, we haven't bid out that price for that ADA, so we'll have to see what that comes in at. And I will just express to the board that we will do everything we can to move this forward very quickly, including meeting with the city to see if we can get that additional permit change expedited. But the permitting department, with the help from Grace Joyce, has been very responsive. So we will meet with them to try and get that permit turned around so we can get that work completed. And we'll also include an update on that project on my weekly update to the board, so you can track that each week as we proceed with the final completion.
Thank you, Mr. Evans.
Mr. Evans, if you could tell him, Mr. Evans, that you know a guy in the expedited permitting department that's overseeing that, they might be able to do something for you. All right.
Pulling strings.
Let's try to get that done. Thank you, Mr. Evans. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. It truly is an embarrassment, and I think you've heard that enough from my colleagues. I don't have to say it again, but I get calls all the time about, when are you going to get that thing done? So I'm glad that you're going to try to expedite this and move as quickly as you can, please. Anything else, Mr. Evans?
Nothing further.
Thank you.
And let me throw this out here for my, I'm sorry.
Say again, Ms. Lanier.
Let me throw this out for my colleagues. Demolish the building, a BB&T building, and sell that property, and let's just, just throw that out.
Okay. Discussion by General Counsel. Thank you. Oh, Mr. McCoy.
So, Commissioner Lanier, let's just take your idea for example. If we demolish that building, where exactly is the CRA's office going to go?
Well, the city has property, the CRA has property. We got that property right there on 19th and Broadway that they can use that site for a new building. We have a situation where we have a 400 square foot building, and we are encountering all types of problems with it, with plumbing, with this, with that, and it's right across the street from this building we just spent $3 million on. So apparently the property is valuable. So, that was just an idea that just came into my head as we're talking about all of these problems with this little small site that we have here. So if you demolish that building, look at other CRA properties and other CRA parcels, other city parcels that we can put the CRA building on. It has to be kind of thought out, but, not a bad idea.
Well, I don't like CRA offices at any prime street, quite honestly, because that's Broadway is ideal for development. And why would, we want to put our offices there when, the best use and highest and best use is probably something else other than the office. But, the same concerns I'm going to have with the BB&T. We're going to go in that place and realize perhaps you might be right. This is probably not something that we're going to be equipped to even see. I want to say we can make it out of here before our 9 years are up, that thing gets finished. But, I'm going to be optimistic, cautiously. So that's all I have. Thank you. And luckily, I don't have any comments tonight, Madam Chair, so you don't even have to call on me.
Okay then. Anyone else? Anything else, Mr. Evans? No, I was already moving to Mr. Haygood.
No, ma'am, I don't have anything.
Thank you. And we have statements by the commissioners, starting with Ms. Miller-Anderson. Commissioner Miller-Anderson. Nothing?
No, thank you. I'm kind of talked out tonight.
Okay.
Thank you.
Commissioner McCoy. Oh, you said nothing. Right. I won't take you at your word. Commissioner Lawson.
I'm going to use Commissioner McCoy and Commissioner Miller-Anderson's time.
I'll split it
Thank you. I appreciate it. I want to discuss just briefly the census competition, but I'll leave that to the end. Bag drive colleagues, if you're available this week, I would love to see as many colleagues as possible to come. We're going to practice social distancing. It's from 4 to 6 at Wells. That's going to be for the actual grad bag that we voted to provide for our seniors. It's going to be an amazing event for them. Just to kind of see you guys out there would be a great support. All the city leaders hopefully will be there. And it's going to be just for the graduating seniors. Right now, I think we have close to 100 registered. We're going to market to try to get at least 200 of the 400 registered for the event. And it's going to be from 4 to 6. It's going to be right after Councilwoman Lanier's testing site. So hers is that morning, then ours is that afternoon. Grant program census.
That's not my testing. That's all of our testing.
All of our testing. And it's not my grab bag. It's all of our grab bag, just to make sure we're all clear. Thank you, Councilwoman Lanier. Census. So myself and Madam Chair are doing the census challenge with some of our surrounding municipalities. We had our 1 month follow-up this past week, and we just found out that we're currently in 5th place between the 12 municipalities, which is a great step for us, but of course we want to be in 1st or 2nd. We had some feedback that came from the other municipalities in reference to how they're handling the census, and a lot of the things that they're doing, we're doing as well. So I think one thing that really kickstarted is I'd want to present that we talked briefly about a challenge amongst all of our colleagues here at on the dais to discuss how we can incentivize each district. So I was looking for feedback and insight as to how we can do the census challenge amongst ourselves, and then allow for us to kind of compete against each other so that we can really help boost that census numbers. Because while we're working on these budgets, we know that those federal dollars are going to truly help and based upon our census. And I'm pretty sure that our city is much larger than 36,000 residents. So I'm thinking we're closer to 40, 45. So if we can really get these numbers up, we can get into a major city status. So I really want us to kind of push in each district individually, and also working with our local organizations and nonprofits, because I kind of mentioned the idea of possibly presenting community benefits to a organization of our choice. We can get those organizations involved and let them know that we'll be incentivizing the district that actually does the best job of getting the numbers and the percentage up. So I was just actually looking for a little bit of feedback, brief discussion. It's already 9 o'clock, so I don't want to keep everybody late with these comments. So if we can just get some brief feedback and then move forward with the direction of the census.
Are you,
Madam Chair?
Go ahead, Ms. Williamson.
So remember, I brought that up. We kind of both brought it up that night, not knowing each other's, we read each other's mind, I guess. But I went on Saturday when we were at the marina. I spoke with Marsha. And because of the way it is on the census website, you can't break it down by the district. She said that it was a little difficult trying to figure out, do a breakdown by district because it only does by tracks. And yeah, so it would be a little difficult trying to do it. That's why she can't, that's why she, that memo she sent out.
Gotcha.
The only thing about that part, I mean, and I haven't responded to her yet about, and I kind of talked to her about it Saturday about it, but it seems like, so what would happen is people have to remember your name and they have to submit your name in order for you to get credit for it. Whereas if we, and she's already sent it out, but that's kind of what she's already put out there because she just couldn't figure out a way for us to break it down by district. And I really haven't digested it a whole lot tonight, after I saw the memo that came out, but essentially, it's hard to do it by district because of the way you can't track it because of the percentages being, the map is broken down by tracks in the city, which is like 3. So if anything, I mean, we could have 3 districts, which it kind of sort of is similar to, but it overlaps. Like mine and Ms. Lanier may overlap in some areas. So how do you determine whether or not that's her piece or that's my piece? So that was probably a better way to say that, but so that's the only part about the district, the fairness of trying to figure out which district won. But the way Marsha is suggesting is that we just basically campaign. Let's see, that would kind of open us up to campaign all over the city versus just staying in your district. Because I believe my district is the smallest in the city. So if I just did, I would never win, even if everybody did it in my district because it's the smallest one. So it's more so about numbers, whole numbers versus percentages. Because when we initially spoke about it, we were talking about, like District 2 right now is at, say they're at 38%. Well, by the end of the time that we did the contest, if they were at 56%, then I would get credit for the difference. But we can't do it in percentages now. I mean, we can, but it overlaps with districts. Yeah, so that's why she suggested people kind of just get out, campaign and say, hey, when you turn yours in, make sure you put my name down. But I know Mr. Lawson, he'll cover the whole city, but he already said he's gonna stay out of it. So we're already out, we're not gonna win here. So that's when I saw that, I was like, oh no, because I know Lawson, he'll send out his whole team and then that'll cover up the whole city and then we're done. But, I guess at the end of the day, it's just a matter of trying to get them out. So I guess it really doesn't
Just
matter
getting
who
it out.
has. It's just trying to get the numbers out. So we can do it the way that was suggested. And I figured, you know, everybody would do whatever they feel they need to do in order to make that happen. But she did suggest about going live on social media, doing videos and things like that. But
there's some feedback. Madam Chair, you have some information from the meeting as well to share in reference to the census. Did you take some notes as well? Because I had some notes as well.
No, go
from
ahead. You go ahead. We probably
Okay.
have the same notes here.
All right,
And
I'll
then
grab those.
we got something back from oh gosh, what's her name in West Palm? Christina Lambert, with some advice. And we've also gotten something from the League of Cities from Jeff Marr from the town of, where was our meeting last time? Royal Palm Beach, with some good ideas that I think, did I send that to, I think I sent it to Mr. Evans to be distributed. But my question about this is, first of all, I called the number just to see if it was going to work, and it doesn't. So we have to let Marcia know, unless maybe she just hasn't activated it yet. She hasn't activated it yet. Okay, because it says, it
probably
tells
not
you,
because it hasn't, the date, it hasn't started yet. Didn't it say
Yeah, okay.
August or something? I think I believe it's started in
says-
August. I can't pull it up in front of me.
yeah, it doesn't really say a date here, but my other point is, you know, if a lot of people, let's say a lot of people in District 1 have already submitted their census, and they would have to go back and find the completion certificate. I mean, I just today dug around in my files and found my completion certificate. How many people really save that? And I'm not sure that that's going to be a good way to, I don't know, to ask people to track whether or not they completed it. I'm not sure that people would have saved that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I was, like I said, I hadn't digested the memo she sent out to try to pivot from, you know, the things we were talking about doing, because I had a plan. It was simple. Hey, we'll do districts, we'll go by percentages, and you know, but it doesn't work like that. So
yeah, maybe we just have to scrap the idea of being in. We had a lot of competition this weekend.
well, we can figure some. I know we did. Some of us did, not everybody. Some people didn't enjoy it as much as we did.
We enjoyed ourselves.
We can look at this. How about this idea? If we if it has to go by census tracts, we can focus on the census tracts with the lowest responses, and then we can either have a team of two council people, or we can have, how we can do it, that if we focus just on a low response census tracts and take that to be our competition. Maybe we can just use that, because what she said, there was 3 census tracts. Yeah, so we take those 3 census tracts, and out of those 2, and we look at the fact that which are the 2 lowest ones, and then 2 council people compete for that particular area.
I mean, it can even go where we have 6 people, with including the mayor. So we could really do 2 per census tract if we want to do that.
And then we can just say, you know, if you got these census tracts, then you 2 council people, and then we can both focus on, say me and whomever, and we focus on that census tract number 2, and then we can come back.
That would work. That would work.
So
that would work.
We'll
ask Marcia to
with
figure it out that way. Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's do
What do you
that.
think, Lawson?
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. Let's just do it within the tracks. And then we just do.
Yeah, then we can really
teams of 2.
count.
That sounds great. And then those teams of 2.
Right.
Those teams of 2 can actually pick. Go ahead, Madam Chair. Sorry.
Sorry. Then we actually don't need to have people remembering where they put that piece of paper, because we can just look at the data we get from the Census Bureau. Yeah, that makes it clean. Nobody has to call it, because, you know, some of us could have people calling in from other districts and say that they were for Lawson. Oh wait, Lawson doesn't have a district.
That's exactly what I was saying.
So, all right. Okay, sorry. No, so we're going to ask Ms. Marcia to figure this out for us based on teams of two for three census tracts. That makes it cleaner. Thank you. Mr.
And,
Lawson, will you be on my team? It's the lowest. We have the furthest to go. We have the most advances to make.
Look at how this track split up. Let me check.
All right, we'll let Miss Marcia.
We'll have Marcia pull names out of a hat just so that it can be fair.
All right.
And just the last thing is, if my colleagues, there's an organization that's actually looking to host a debate for our residents here in the city with some of the seats. We spoke about it just kind of briefly, but they asked if my colleagues could submit some questions to Mr. Evans. He's going to just choose a question from each council member, and a few of the organizations that are going to host it, they're going to do it for our residents because the residents really haven't had the exposure for some of the races that's actually going on. So I think they're going to address District 88. I told them about District, I believe 89, Madam Chair, as well. And I know the port seats. So those are going to be some of the races that they're going to be addressing that directly affect our city. So if you guys can submit about 5 questions, they're going to try to choose for the debate questions that come from each district for the debate. Just send them over to Mr. Evans, and they're looking to do that probably 1 or 2 weeks outside of Super Tuesday.
Okay. Mr. Miller-Anderson.
Yes, Mr. Miller-Anderson.
So who's doing the debate? An organization?
The organizations are nonprofit community partners, Bridges, Pretty Girls Vote. It's a few nonprofits that's going to actually host it, but Mr. Evans is hopefully going to air it on Channel 18 for our residents. I'm going to look to just kind of facilitate and partner with them to make sure it gets done so that they can get exposure, so our residents can see what's going on. So we just want to have questions coming from our dais if possible. I mean, you don't have to submit the questions, but we want it to be concerns that come from our residents, our district, because District 88 directly affects us. The port race directly affects us. So those relationships and those concerns, we would want to definitely get over to them so they can ask them. We're going to remain nonpartisan, non-biased. Our vote is our vote individually, but as a city, we have to have great representation. So, and we want our residents who haven't been able to see these candidates, we want to give them as much exposure as possible. There's a lot of Facebook stuff going on, but a lot of our seniors aren't on Facebook. They're more so on Channel 18. So having it aired on Channel 18 will give them great exposure.
And I want to make sure that, that I remain neutral because I have endorsed a couple of candidates. So I want to make sure that this is neutral.
Yes, it's completely, and that was the biggest concern with Ms. Nguyen and Mr. Evans, that we are going to remain neutral because regardless of our personal endorsements and beliefs, as a city, we just want to make sure the exposure for every resident is there. So it's not going to be anything where we're doing endorsements or support, and the questions are going to be asked to every individual, and we're going to offer invites to every person. So hopefully all of them will come, and they'll all have the ability to answer the same question.
Great.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Mr. McCoy.
Is there any congressional races that's going to be included in this, Mr. Commissioner Lawson?
They did take a look at a few of the congressional races. They haven't come back to me yet about what they want to do. Was there a recommendation that you had that I could bring to them?
No, I just was curious. I mean, you spoke about representation. Quite honestly, I think the representation in Washington is just as important as that in Tallahassee.
Yes, sir, and the county as well. So I agree. Even though we're in Commissioner McBernard's district, it's still all the races are very important. So I agree with you. I will check with them. Sorry.
So, but I guess over on the island, they're also up for election too. With was that 56 for the county?
89.
89 House, and then county is Miss Karen Marcus, and is that district? What district is that?
Maria Marino and Karen.
So are those included too?
Those are gonna be discussions. The only ones that they addressed with me was 88. I brought to them 89, which we had talked about at the last meeting, and then the port. Those were the 3 that I talked to them about. But I could discuss with them the opportunity. It's just being able to complete all of them within the next 3-4 weeks, and also organizing the schedules.
And please, Mr. Lawson, please consider having them consider judges.
Okay.
Yeah, a lot of people don't understand that much about the judges, and I think.
And you know what? I think that's going to be a legal question because judicial candidates have some very unique,
right?
rules regarding them. So I'm gonna allow you guys to do that, and I'm gonna just watch from the sideline because I don't necessarily want to even take part in that.
Well, we're not doing
nothing.
Submitting names and questions, right?
You don't have to.
Not names.
You don't
We,
have
I
to.
mean, we don't have to. They just requested because they said that they'd like for the individuals that represent the city to provide names on behalf of the residents, but we don't have to. It's just requesting information.
Names or questions, Mr. Lawson?
But questions, not names.
Okay,
We're not submitting
okay.
names. Definitely no names. Just questions and concerns that are addressed in our city. But they're going to host the races, and they're utilizing Channel 18 as a advertisement for the just exposure for the candidates and asking the same questions.
Yeah, but I got some concerns with that because, quite honestly, I'm gonna tell you right now, I disagree with it because here's the other thing. Think about what's gonna happen. We have nonprofits who, by IRS code, should not be political, and if you get the candidates forum that's gonna be done on our network using our resources that potentially we have no control over, and it gets to be something that is out of hand because we're not moderating it. I just think that this is going to be problematic. And the only way I would agree to it, if it's not done live, that way, if there is something that does not exactly go well or jive well, then there's an opportunity that Mr. Stevens in production can make sure that this is no way reflective of the city, or we're leaning towards a candidate, or we're giving the instrumentality for one candidate to do something that is not ethical or proper or even morally correct. So I just want to make sure that we're not doing this live. If we're going to do it, I'm okay with doing it, but there has to be some control by us to edit this, that it doesn't get out of hand, and then it becomes what I seen on this what was it? I seen one where one of the candidates said, I guess I just brought it up tonight. I'm not trying to be flip, but my name is so and so. But I don't want it to be one of those situations because then people are gonna associate that with the city of Riviera Beach. So Mr. Stevens has to have some control in editing the content so it doesn't turn into a circus, if you will, because it can get pretty bad.
And in response to that, with discussions with legal and our city manager, that was the same sentiments. So we had the opportunity to actually moderate and to facilitate the entire debate where we only present the questions. We bring in our moderator to oversee it, and we remain non-biased because we have to give our residents the opportunity to see these candidates. No one's able to knock on doors. They're not able to get out to these debates. They can't do the meet and greets. And we have a lot of seniors that have no idea who's actually going to be on this ballot. Yet this ballot is going to be so impactful on our city. So I would be inclined to figuring out how we can moderate and oversee it. And I would take the lead on that if that's the direction that you want us to go. The only reason we brought in a nonprofit is so that we could allow for them to facilitate and we remain nonpartisan. But if we prefer to take the lead and ask the questions and we oversee the questions, I'll take the lead and do it. As long as my colleagues submit the questions over to our attorney and city managers, I'll take the lead with that. And then also critiquing the video. I agree with you. Live may not be a good option. We can re-air it, but then who are we going to leave in response to critique the video? Is that going to be legal? Is that going to be Walter? Who's going to actually critique and edit the video to make sure that it jives with what the city represents? So it's a lot of steps and hurdles. I wanted to make it simple for us just by submitting questions moving forward. I think it's something our residents need because it's an important election year and we want to really encourage people to vote. So this also gives them the opportunity and encourages them to vote as well.
Ms. Miller-Anderson, and then I want to ask about the League of Women Voters. Ms. Miller-Anderson.
So, we've aired these debates before. I don't know if those organizations, were they nonprofits though, that
I think
like Black Village Voice and Unify,
Yeah.
Are they nonprofit though?
Yeah, they're nonprofits.
Okay.
Former Mayor Masters and some of those organizations are the ones that kind of did it in conjunction. He did it from the mayor's office with Black Village Voice. Yeah, a few of them. And they're all nonprofits.
Right. Yeah. So, we've done it before in that manner.
I think it's just most important now, Ms. Miller-Anderson. That's the reason. I just think it's really vital because right now there has been no exposure for this election.
No, I totally agree with that. No, I think something needs to happen. I don't think we should be in it though. I don't,
Yeah.
even with the moderating, I don't think the council should be involved in it. But I agree, we definitely need something. Are we talking about doing it by Zoom and then they air it on, I mean, virtual and then have them air it?
Do it on Zoom or just have them air it, or have the candidates come to the marina and have them just record them doing a debate there. So those were the two options, but right now Zoom was the best bet.
Okay. Okay.
So
Yeah, I mean, as long as it can be monitored, you know.
So do we have consensus that it should be not done by us, but by somebody outside, that it be taped rather than live, and that we're okay with it to go on our channel as long as it's given
Yeah,
those
and I think
conditions?
I think that Doug should introduce it and open it up, but in terms of asking questions, I think that should be somebody else.
Okay.
Yeah, just so y'all know, this is not something the council has ever voted on. I mean, we've never taken consensus on this happening. I mean, it just worked through the city manager.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, I believe it's just something that we can just get done. The only reason I was trying to involve the council is just to get feedback with the direction. I didn't want it to air on 18,
Right,
without all the council being involved, and make sure that we kind of had an idea and consensus, because it would be an innovative way of doing it. And we kind of have to pivot a little bit because we're experiencing a pandemic that none of us have experienced. So just trying to find out the best way to maneuver with this.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Well,
Anything
we can
else, Mr.
monitor it.
Lawson?
That's it. Thank you, Madam Chair. I appreciate you guys
Thank
indulging
you.
me.
Commissioner
thing.
Miller Anderson.
I was just looking at the census tracts, and it's actually like maybe like 10, but they're small pieces, so you would have to try to figure out where our boundary is. So maybe we may have like 2 sections a piece or something. I don't know. We'll let Marshall figure that out, but
yeah,
right.
It's not, not matching up with your district, so.
Ms. Lanier, Commissioner Lanier. It still says council person under your name there.
Oh, does it? Okay. I just wanted to say that although we, in terms of when we have these meetings, I did want to say to the CRA director and to the staff, we do appreciate the work that you do. We do appreciate the fact that, we go back and forth, and of course we talk noise, but we do appreciate the work that you do provide to the commission, so that I don't want the staff to feel as if they're being beat up on or whatever the case may be. I just want to let them know that we do appreciate the work that you do for us. Also, I wanted to let you know about my town hall that's going to be on the July 30th, and I think the chair has one on the 27th, isn't it? 27th?
Yes. Yeah.
So that will be for District 3, and the conversation is going to be about the gardening program, the urban farmers program, the Hope Dealers program, and anything that's happening in my district. So I just wanted the public to be aware of that. Other than that, that is it.
Thank you, Councilwoman Lanier. I have a town hall meeting, as you said, on Monday, the 24th at 6 o'clock. You can register for it either on the city's Facebook page, or I have put it up on my Facebook page. And if you register, then you'll get the link to join in. We already have 80 people registered for it, so it should be a good meeting. I just wanted to let people know I acquired 100 microwavable meals that will be delivered to Valley of Love Ministries on Tuesday. They usually come first thing in the morning. So if you need meals, they will be at Valley of Love, which is on West Blue Heron near that Boost store. I will post the exact address for Valley of Love on my Facebook page and on Nextdoor. Let's see, if you would want to sign up for those Palm Beach State College courses, you get free tuition, free books if you qualify for financial aid, and you come away with a 12-credit college credit certificate, a CCC in business. So I encourage you to take advantage of that. Oh, yes, we met on the 20th with a fabulous group of people. There must have been 25 people in this meeting, from Hal Balachet all the way down to, well, I don't want to say all the way down. It implies that there's a hierarchy. a large group of people from various municipalities and Commissioner Valechet and other people from the county with regard to the derelict boats and the liveaboard boats that are in the lagoon. And we came away with a good plan. We were formulating a task force with the help of our attorneys, our legal department, Lina Busby in particular. They'll meet in the next 2 weeks to come up with a county-wide ordinance that we can enforce as a county so that we don't have these individual municipalities having their own way of dealing with these liveaboards and derelict boats. So I feel very optimistic that maybe finally, after a long stretch of dealing with these things, we'll have that issue conquered. So that's all from me. And if there's nothing else, can somebody make a motion to adjourn, please?
So moved.
Thank you. Anyone opposed? Seeing none, we adjourn. Mr. McCoy, you're not opposed, are you really? You are not. Thank you. Thank you. Good night.
Bye.
Thank you.